Chapter 425. To be honest, Han Fei was really not used to not using the blue sea wandering dragon daggers. The whetstone in Han Fei's hand was actually just refined. These days, Han Fei had obtained a lot of spoils of war. He found a mid-quality spiritual weapon from those sea-swallowing seashells and then re-refined it with Forge the Universe, turning it into a high-quality spiritual weapon. The whetstone and the kitchen knife were simply a perfect match. At this moment, facing a group of people who didn't even have a peak-level dangling fisher, Han Fei rushed in alone. This was the first time he had used the majestic mystic spell in actual combat, and he had no experience before. After being shot dozens of times and slashed dozens of times, Han Fei stomped on someone's boat and flipped it over. As the blood-drinking knife turned, the entire fishing boat was cut in half by Han Fei. The people around were horrified and raised their weapons to block. As a result, under Han Fei's slash, dozens of spiritual weapons exploded with a series of cracking sounds. One of them, who didn't react in time, was cut in half together with his rod. In just one blow, a dozen people were seriously injured. Many people's arms were directly cut off by Han Fei, and some people were so frightened that they ran away. Run! After Han Fei's slash, someone shouted. How could they still care about enforcing justice on behalf of heaven? This was a fucking simple blow, but most of them were seriously injured. What would happen if he attacked them again? Han Fei grabbed the whetstone in one hand and the blood-drinking knife in the other, looking up at the sky and laughing. Ghosts take your soul. The black and white ghosts, have just entered the martial arts world. Tremble. The guy who wanted to enforce justice on behalf of heaven carried his little sister and jumped into the sea. He felt that he had already pissed his pants. Crazy, this world is crazy. Just when Han Fei opened his arms and made a pose to the sky, everyone had fled. These people only wished they didn't have 8 legs and only hoped that this lunatic Han Fei wouldn't catch up with them. Xia Xiaochan was also dumbfounded. At this moment, she was still standing on Han Fei's shoulder. As soon as she raised the rod in her hand, she saw a flash of knife light. The enemy was defeated? Who wouldn't be dumbfounded? Han Fei was also very powerful in the past, but he couldn't be this powerful. Xia Xiaochan reckoned that even she would have been seriously injured by the slash just now. And when he slashed out, Xia Xiaochan clearly felt that Han Fei retracted his spiritual energy. It seemed to be very easy and he didn't even use his full strength. Otherwise, the dozen people just now would not have just had their weapons broken, but all of them would have been killed by Han Fei. Still maintaining his posture, Han Fei glanced at Xia Xiaochan. Have they all escaped? Gulp. Xia Xiaochan lowered her head, looked at Han Fei, and suddenly screamed, "Ah! How did you suddenly become so powerful?" Han Fei hushed her, put away the whetstone and the blood-drinking knife, and then patted Xia Xiaochan's little feet. Come down first. With a flash, Xia Xiaochan appeared on her fishing boat and stared at Han Fei as if he were an alien with her big, watery eyes. You used a secret technique just now, didn't you? It must be a secret technique. What kind of secret technique could make you so strong all of a sudden? How much power did you use just now? Was there a 50% chance? Xia Xiaochan asked a lot of questions, which made Han Fei quite proud. Suddenly, Xia Xiaochan pulled Han Fei's ear. Tell me. Why do you have such a powerful secret technique? There's no such powerful secret technique in the school library. Besides, what's the side effect of your secret technique? Is it big? Hey! Let go of me first. The two of them joked for a while, and Han Fei lied that he got it by accident. When Han Fei said that this secret technique only needed to eat to accumulate energy, Xia Xiaochan's eyes widened. Really? Is it true? Are the side effects so small? Han Fei rolled his eyes. Do you think I'm lying to you? How about I tell you to eat yellow-blooded sea cucumbers? Let me tell you, it's a pity. Only food with high energy can replenish energy faster. However, in this level 3 fishery, there are too few marine creatures with extremely high energy like yellow-blooded sea cucumbers. If I eat other ordinary food, how much will I eat? Xia Shaochan swallowed. Then if you give this secret technique to Lu Renquang, Xia Shaochan and Han Fei couldn't help but daydream. If Lu Renquang got this secret method, he would be able to eat for 11 hours a day. And he would save the remaining hour for fighting. After a pause, Xia Shaochan's eyes glowed. I want to learn it too. Han Fei knew that Xia Shaochan couldn't resist this temptation, so he said casually, Girl, smile for me, and I'll teach you. Ha ha ha, Xia Shaochan immediately licked her lips and smiled. Han Fei said proudly, Well, good job. Kiss me, and I'll teach you. Bo, Han Fei felt very happy. When he got the majestic mystic spell, he knew that the others would also want it. Especially Lu Renquang, he would never let go of this secret technique. Zhang Xuanyu, who was shameless enough to hug Han Fei's thigh and cry. As for Luo Xiaobai, she was a problem. She always tasted food and was very ladylike. Unlike Xia Shaochan, when she encountered delicious food, she would throw away all the restraint of a little girl. Han Fei narrowed his eyes, enjoying it, and shouted, I don't know why, but my shoulders feel a little sore. After waiting for a while, Han Fei saw that there was no movement, so he opened his eyes and looked up. He saw Xia Shaochan looking down at him from above, grinning hideously. Suddenly, a pair of slender legs clasped his neck. Master Han Fei, how does it feel to order others around? Sore shoulders. I'll make your head sore. Cough, cough. Cough, let go of me. Han Fei was lying on the deck. At this moment, his neck was clasped by Xia Shaochan, and his face was red. Teach, teach, teach. I'll teach. Cough, cough, after a moment. Han Fei scolded, As a girl, how can you behave like this? Is this what a girl should be like? Xia Shaochan was holding the jade slip at this moment. She looked back and glared at Han Fei. Stop nagging. Han Fei almost choked with anger. What the fuck? Why do I regard Xia Shaochan as a cute little girl? Do I have masochistic tendencies? In addition to the majestic mystic spell, Han Fei also threw a bunch of soul warrior combat skills to Xia Shaochan. After all, for a period of time, Xia Shaochan could no longer fight as a hunter. Therefore, she had to learn some combat skills so that she could temporarily pretend to be a soul warrior. Xia Shaochan ran to the sea to cultivate, and their journey was temporarily suspended. At this time, Han Fei took out his fishing rod. Since the deduction of the 4th level of the void fishing art, he hadn't had time to fish, let alone the opportunity to cultivate the void-breaking technique. At this moment, the reputation of the black and white ghosts was far from spreading, so Han Fei was not in a hurry to go to the steps into the sea. If he had time, he'd better practice his fishing skills. He couldn't keep kissing Xia Shaochan. Han Fei couldn't help but shiver as he thought about it. At first, Xia Shaochan liked this feeling because of the mysterious experience. Then, as the frequency increased, she wouldn't be as tense as the first time. Once, when Han Fei tried to do something with his hand was almost chopped off by Xia Shaochan, which scared him so much that he had a phobia. The fishing skills obtained from the first 3 levels of the void-breaking technique were different from those obtained from the first 3 levels of the void fishing art. If the first 3 levels were just fishing skills and hook skills, then the void-breaking technique was, fuck. 1,000-mile fishing technique? Han Fei blinked. The 4th level of the void fishing art was actually the 1,000-mile fishing technique. Like Wenren Yu and Xiao Zhan, with a wave of their fishing hooks, they could instantly fish thousands of kilometers away. 4 directions, vast sea, void restriction. Void-breaking spirit puppet, 10,000 kilometers in an instant. Han Fei didn't know what kind of magical incantation he was looking at. Anyway, this was the hook technique imprinted in his mind. Almost subconsciously, Han Fei cast out a hook. Han Fei saw the hook flash in the air, disappear for about 0.01 seconds, and then it went deep into the water. He couldn't help but feel that this method could be achieved. In the next few days, Han Fei cast the hook crazily. While Han Fei was walking and stopping, on a dragon boat near the steps into the sea, the news about the black and white ghosts had already spread all over the sea. If 1 or 2 people were talking about the black and white ghosts, it would be fine. The point was that dozens of people were talking about it. This was worth paying attention to. At this moment, in the employment hall of the dragon boat, a young woman said in a delicate voice, "We need one more. Let's find a peak-level dangling fisher hunter to hunt the black and white ghosts. Does anyone want to join?" In the crowd, a young man with 2 knife scars on his face came over. "Hey! I'm in. The 3rd chapter. Asking for votes." The author said, "All right. I'm a bit of a bad taste in naming. Someone guessed it. Let me swim for 2 chapters. From the sea grassland to the undersea city, there are actually 2 different narrative styles. Then, please welcome the 3rd one. Asking for votes." End of this chapter. Chapter 426. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan had just come out of a treasure trove. At this moment, the 2 of them were sitting in front of a large pot, in which a skinned sea snake was being stewed. The soup was boiling, bubbling, and the aroma was overflowing. Even the hexagon starfish was lying next to the pot. Xia Shaochan held her chin with her hand gloomily. "Why have most of the places marked on our map been explored?" Han Fei shrugged indifferently. "Isn't this normal? We are about 50,000 kilometers away from the steps into the sea. This distance was not far for the steps into the sea, where people came and went. That's why it's normal that the mystic realms along the way have been explored by others." Xia Shaochan poked the sea snake with her chopsticks out of boredom to see if the meat was cooked. She glanced at the hexagon starfish who was still sucking on the wine jar and couldn't help but poke it with her chopsticks. "It's so lazy. Can I stew it too?" The hexagon starfish. Swoosh. The hexagon starfish immediately hung on Han Fei's leg, and his 6 big eyes were full of horror. "I don't taste good. Starfish don't have meat. My body is full of wine now. I don't taste good." The hexagon starfish was now afraid of Xia Shaochan. In just dozens of days, it had seen Han Fei being abused many times. Even a terrifying existence like Han Fei was abused. How terrifying was this person? Xia Shaochan scoffed. "Humph. These treasure troves are really boring. Why don't we hurry up and go to the steps into the sea?" Han Fei was also poking the snake meat with chopsticks. When it was almost done, he picked up a large piece and put it into his mouth, chewing it. "Don't worry. We have to make a name for ourselves in a fight. Only when we become famous will no one pay attention to the names Han Fei and Xia Shaochan." Xia Shaochan twisted her head. "We are already very famous. Recently, I've seen quite a few fishing boats run away when they see us. They must know us." Han Fei shook his head. "That's different. You have to win a great victory to recognize them. For example, a few peak-level dangling fishers, a famous figure in the level 3 fishery, or a son of a rich family in the 1,000-star city. Only by defeating such people could he spread his fame. It's best if we can move up the wanted list. Only then will we be qualified to go to the steps into the sea." Xia Shaochan sighed, picked up a large piece of snake meat, and threw it into the bowl. "Is the steps into the sea really so dangerous?" Han Fei smiled. "The steps into the sea are very safe. Almost everyone can go there. As long as you are in the area of the steps into the sea, you will be safe. However, it was said that those who could really go to the depths of the steps into the sea were all powerful figures. For example, the people on the wanted list, the descendants of the big clans in the Thousand-Star City, the influential figures in the Level 3 fishery, the unparalleled heavenly talents in the town. How can I compete with these people without making a name for myself? As he spoke, Han Fei suddenly picked up the sea snake's head that was not in the pot and smashed it into the night sky. The next moment, the tongue flew back. A fishing boat descended from the sky, and the identity of the 3 peak-level dangling fishers on the fishing boat showed the strength of the people who came this time. Han Fei glanced around. Soul warrior, armorist, spirit gatherer. Ha! Shouldn't there be hunters and manipulators? Xia Shaochan muttered, are these people strong enough? Han Fei chuckled. I think they are. Xia Shaochan picked up the stick and looked around. She and Han Fei were not fools. Since there were only 3 people on the other side, it meant that there were 2 more people nearby. Judging from her hunter's awareness, the other party's hunters should be looking for an opportunity to assassinate her at this moment. Since Han Fei's strength was publicized, Xia Shaochan would always be the first target to be attacked. Besides, because she was a girl, the other party's hunters would naturally attack her first. The leader was an armorist. At this moment, the armor box had been opened, and there were 9 swords surrounding it. One of the Black Moon's scythe was exceptionally dazzling in the dark night. Recently, I heard that there are 2 people named Black and White ghosts near the steps into the sea. It should be you, right? As intermediate dangling fishers, you can defeat more than 20 people. You are strong enough. The armorist laughed loudly. His body was covered with steel thorn armor, and there was a large tortoise shield in front of his chest to protect his vital parts. Next to him, a soul warrior was holding 2 scimitars in his hands and carrying another 2 scimitars on his back, looking very cool. The soul warrior stepped directly from the boat and threw out the 2 scimitars in his hands, which rotated like 2 huge rollers, one attacking up and the other attacking down. Immediately afterward, he pulled out the 2 scimitars on his back and rotated them in his hands. The huge knife light swept across the sea, like 2 vertical water wave scimitars, rolling towards Han Fei and Xia Shaochan. Han Fei grinned. What's the point of all these fancy tricks? Bam! The whetstone was thrown out. As Han Fei slapped it heavily, the 2 scimitars were directly knocked away, and Han Fei took a step back. When the 2 knife lights rolled over, the whetstone was thrown out again, and Han Fei took another step back. Seeing this scene, the other party's eyes all lit up. Since Han Fei took a step back, it showed that there was still a gap between them. The corners of the soul warrior's mouth curled up. Even his tentative blow was forced to retreat, which showed that Han Fei was not an easy opponent for a peerless heavenly talent. He could fight. When the soul warrior approached, the 9 sword shadows in the sky seemed to fall from the sky, charging at Han Fei with majestic sword momentum. Swish! 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 With the blood-drinking knife in his hand, Han Fei roared, "What can you do to me?" Clatter! When Han Fei shouted this, the fishing boat under his feet was suddenly pushed up. An octopus tentacle tens of meters long suddenly rose and buckled on the boat. At this critical moment, a strange figure suddenly appeared behind Xia Shaochan. Boom! Almost in the blink of an eye, Xia Shaochan disappeared. She didn't use teleportation but the roaming technique. Majestic mystic spell. Almost at the same time, Han Fei and Xia Shaochan used a secret method. In an instant, the rising momentum directly formed a powerful energy shock. The armorist's face changed drastically. Not good, retreat. However, it was too late to retreat. Han Fei slashed out with the blood-drinking knife in his hand, and the opponent was only 2 or 3 meters away from him. The soul warrior blocked it with 2 knives, and the other 2 knives tried to attack Han Fei from behind. However, Han Fei didn't dodge at all and directly slashed at the soul warrior. Swish! An octopus tentacle slapped at Han Fei horizontally, trying to block him. It should be from the manipulator. A spiritual light fell, and a spiritual energy armor fell on the soul warrior. This was the means of a spirit gatherer. A tortoise shield appeared in the air, also trying to block Han Fei's blow. With the help of the other three, the soul warrior's face turned cold, and he activated his spiritual energy protective cover. At the same time, a crab phantom blocked in front of him and clamped at Han Fei. Puff, Kacha, crack. Puff, in the blink of an eye, the tentacle flew out, the tortoise shell burst, the spiritual energy armor and the spiritual energy protective cover shattered at the same time, and the crab phantom was cut into 2 pieces. Everyone was so scared that they almost pissed their pants. What kind of strength was that? How can this knife be so strong? Unfortunately, Han Fei was still an intermediate dangling fisher after all. Even if his strength had soared by 5 times, this knife still couldn't kill the soul warrior. After all, he still had 2 scimitars to protect him. However, even so, the soul warrior was sent flying by Han Fei's knife and the 2 scimitars in his hands were directly broken. This person was terrified and tried to retreat. However, the whetstone had turned into a large brick tens of meters long and slammed at him. Bang! The sea shook and a huge splash emerged. Han Fei stepped on the blue waves, directly withstood the 9 sword shadows, and slashed out again. Puff, clang, clang, clang. The soul warrior, at the moment of death, showed a look of horror. He, a dignified peak-level dangling fisher, with many people protecting him, couldn't even withstand 2 knives. Han Fei's body was also scratched by the 9 sword shadows, and blood was faintly oozing out of his skin. The armorist on the opposite side was so furious at this moment that his eyes almost popped out. Seeing the soul warrior who was slashed into 2 pieces, his expression changed drastically. Of course, in addition to Han Fei's attack power, he was more frightened by Han Fei's defense power. Others didn't know the fucking 9 sword shadows, but he knew them very well. The one in the middle was a high-quality spiritual weapon, and the ones on the periphery were 8 mid-quality spiritual weapons. Such a killing move of 9 swords was actually directly resisted by someone's body. At this moment, the armorist's worldview collapsed. What the hell is this monster? The opponent's spirit gatherer directly controlled the fishing boat to take off. Retreat. Han Fei looked up with a smile and suddenly said, Master Hexagon Starfish, let's do it. Swish swish swish. Beams of purple light soared into the sky. Master Hexagon Starfish finally played its role after being a bystander for so long. Chapter 426 of the Fishing God's latest chapter, Chapter 426, Raising the 6 Names. Chapter 427. Above the sky, the fishing boat started. Han Fei waved his hand from a distance and said, Come again. With that, Han Fei turned around and jumped into the sea. In fact, Han Fei deliberately let the armorist and the spirit gatherer go. After all, the black and white impermanence duo still wanted to be famous. However, he wouldn't let go of the manipulator hiding underwater and the hunter on his boat. The people who came back were peak-level dangling fishers. Unlike those advanced dangling fishers, their words carried great weight. It was enough for 2 people to go back and spread the news. Han Fei was not worried that Xia Shaochan couldn't beat the hunter. Now that the armorist and the spirit gatherer had run away, the remaining 2 people would definitely die. Xia Shaochan didn't need to pretend to be a soul warrior anymore. Under the water, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers on Han Fei's side were all out, madly cutting the big octopus. However, suddenly the big octopus disappeared. It must have been possessed. When Han Fei went down to take a look, he saw a young woman suddenly flash, and then, bang! He crashed into the 6 gates formation. Han Fei looked at her with a smile and said, Yo! Can't you flash out? Why don't you try again? The woman's face was full of horror, and the flash stone flashed again. However, this time, she flashed 20 meters away from Han Fei. What formation is this? Han Fei shrugged slightly, and the 9-star chain of 9 tails had already shot out and the blue sea wandering dragon daggers swept out. If Han Fei was just an ordinary intermediate dangling fisher, the million knife art wouldn't be so scary. However, at this moment, Han Fei had 5 times his combat power. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers rolled like a tide, surging out more fiercely than the torrent of knives and swords. And because the speed was so fast, it almost became a real flickering light and passing shadow. Although this manipulator had reached the realm of a peak-level dangling fisher, she was not as good as Han Fei in terms of reaction speed and strength. When the million knife art swept out, the manipulator could only block it with her contractual spiritual beast or even spiritual beast. How could she control the whole situation? You're Han Fei. Spare my life. Han Fei's expression was gloomy. He tilted his head slightly. I'm sorry. I've been putting on an act for so long. I can't let it go just because of you. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for wanting to kill me. Han Fei flicked his finger and the million knife art stirred crazily. At this moment, in Han Fei's eyes, there was no human figure, only knife light. At this time, Han Fei fully understood what it meant to be a strong man. Although Han Fei was not yet a peak-level dangling fisher, he really felt what it was like to be a strong one. With a wave of his hand, the expert who was once extremely powerful in his eyes was turned into ashes. After the manipulator was executed, Han Fei picked up a sea-swallowing seashell and prepared to board. In this case, if he let her go out alive, his identity would be exposed. Swish. Swish. 2 streaks of light appeared. The blood-drinking knife blocked it and Han Fei found that it was actually 2 thin needles. Xia Shaochan, however, was engaged in a fierce battle with the hunter with a dagger. The hunter was really in line with the identity of a hunter. His body was like a funnel, spewing hidden weapons everywhere. Ha! Xia Shaochan, why haven't you won yet? Although the hunter had expected this, when he heard the name, Xia Shaochan, he almost burst into tears. He had been paying attention to the information of the black and white ghosts for a long time. At first, he thought that no matter how powerful the 2 intermediate dangling fishers were, how powerful could they be? In his estimation, no matter how powerful these 2 people were, they were only peak-level dangling fishers. In his estimation, no matter how powerful these 2 people were, they were only peak-level dangling fishers. When he fully exerted his strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to face 2 peak-level dangling fishers. Besides, to be on the safe side, he even joined a team of peak-level dangling fishers before coming here. But who would have thought that in just one encounter, the soul warrior was killed, and the armorist and spirit gatherer also ran away? How the hell could he fight them? Xia Shaochan said, this hunter is very unusual. He's so powerful and has a lot of means. I just want to learn from him. Puff. Han Fei didn't know how big the psychological trauma of this hunter was. An intermediate dangling fisher fooled a peak-level dangling fisher for a long time. Was this something a human would do? The hunter said, Han Fei, Xia Shaochan, this is a misunderstanding. Han Fei ignored him and stood on the side of the boat. Ah! My pod is broken. Where's the snake meat? Xia Shaochan said, it was accidentally cut by me just now. Han Fei. The hunter was almost crying. I'm fucking fighting. What are you doing? Chatting? Please respect my existence, okay? Han Fei, I'm Lian Qi. Let me go. I'm willing to give you a secret realm and all my belongings in exchange. Han Fei was stunned. Lian Qi. Why does this name sound so familiar? With that said, Han Fei stretched out his hand and took out a wanted list. He turned over the list one by one and searched carefully. During the process, Xia Shaochan asked, hey, is it someone on the wanted list? Lian Qi was almost crying. Fuck you. There are only 100 people on the wanted list. Can't you remember them? Why do I have to look through them? After a long time, Han Fei suddenly shouted, found it. Xia Shaochan said, read it to me. Han Fei, 75th on the wanted list. Name, Lian Qi. Nickname, Shadow Hunter. Gender, male. Profession, hunter. Spiritual beast, dark thorn fish. Exotic, contractual spiritual beasts. Ice crystal shellfish, exotic. Mad bloodworm, exotic. Characteristics, unpredictable footwork and good at using hidden weapons. Mad blood outburst, 17 shadow combo. Bounty, 500,000 mid-quality pearls. Other rewards, 50 caddies of spiritual spring, a demon-level low-quality cultivation method, a mid-quality spiritual weapon, and 50 spiritual fruits. Character evaluation, dangerous. Hired 32 times without a single failure. Has killed 8 peak-level dangling fishers. After reading it, Han Fei commented, only 500,000 bounty, far worse than us. There is not much spiritual spring, and the demon-level low-quality cultivation method is too rubbish. But the reward is only a mid-quality spiritual weapon. This is simply a disgrace to the wanted list. Xia Xiaochan said, what are Mad Blood Outburst and 17 Shadow Combo? I haven't seen him use them. Hey, show me. Han Fei threw the book into Forge the Universe and nodded solemnly. This brother is quite ambitious. If he kills us, he can rank 3rd on the wanted list. Maybe he can even be compared with Imo Qianshang, who ranks 1st. Lian Qi said, Han Fei, for the sake that we are all on the wanted list, I can make a contract with the sea god that I will never reveal your identities. Puff. Han Fei was speechless. How can we be on the fucking wanted list? We are all bad guys. So, when bad guys meet bad guys, they should show some respect. Is that what you mean? Xia Xiaochan suddenly turned into a shadow, and in the mess of hidden weapons, a dagger suddenly appeared in the air, flashing like a ghost. Puff. 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 In the blink of an eye, Lian Qi's body was cut a dozen times by Xia Xiaochan. Xia Xiaochan shouted, hurry up, show me the Mad Blood Outburst and 17 Shadow Combo. Lian Qi's face was dark, and the 2 scars on his face trembled. In fact, he had already guessed that those who could be on the wanted list wouldn't have any sympathy or pity. Even if they did, they wouldn't pity him, who was also on the wanted list. Lian Qi smiled bitterly, and suddenly, a layer of strange red light flashed on his body. His eyes were full of blood, and his momentum soared sharply. Huh? Han Fei was slightly taken aback. Why does this kind of outburst look a bit like Lu Renkuang's frenzy? Lian Qi was also as fast as a phantom, and he turned into 8 bodies at once, like a clone technique. Immediately afterward, he used a set of weird killing techniques, a bit similar to Xia Xiaochan's 1000 strike technique, but it seemed to be far inferior. However, what was certain was that Lian Qi's technique was also a secret technique, and it didn't seem to be weak. This secret technique had more than doubled his strength, whether it was in terms of speed or combat power. After fighting for about 100 breaths, Lian Qi withdrew from his mad blood state. However, Xia Xiaochan was having a good time fighting and accidentally stabbed Lian Qi again. Xia Xiaochan. Han Fei said, not all secret methods can compare with our secret methods. Lian Qi was stabbed 7 or 8 big holes by Xia Xiaochan in an instant. His internal organs were all damaged, and there was a big wound on his neck. If Han Fei treated him with the divine healing technique at this moment, he might be able to survive. In desperation, Lian Qi suddenly grinned. Gua. I still can't go back. Cough. Han Fei's eyes were cold at this moment, and he stepped forward and stabbed Lian Qi again. This person must die. Everyone had a story. Those who could come to the level 3 fishery were actually very extraordinary and might all be the best in a certain place. However, they chose to come and stay, because they were more used to fighting here. His past and the people he once missed were no longer important to him, because he was already prepared to die at any moment. Xia Xiaochan panicked. Han Fei smiled casually and said, can he be more miserable than the people in the heavenly desolation city? Xia Xiaochan's body stiffened, and she remembered the scene where millions of people died outside the heavenly desolation city. Compared to people like Lian Qi, he was even more shocking and thought-provoking. Han Fei cast a divine healing technique on Lian Qi to heal his flesh and said, "It's cruel, but no one will be kind to us." Chapter 427 of Fishing God's latest chapter 427, No one is merciful to everyone. Chapter 428. The reputation of the black and white ghosts finally made waves on the dragon boat. According to the armorist and spirit gatherer who returned, the black and white ghosts had a peerless secret method that could double their strength. Especially Han Fei, who could kill a peak-level dangling fisher with only 2 slashes, which really shocked many people on the dragon boat. As for the weapon, as many people said, the black and white ghosts used a kitchen knife. The fact that they killed people and ate human flesh was even more shocking. Immediately afterward, those who had been robbed by the black and white ghosts began to brag about it. As a result, the names of Fan Datong and Xie Xiaoan became famous on the dragon boat. Some people even planned to organize more peak-level dangling fishers to attack them again. Of course, the purpose of these people was also very simple. They just wanted to catch the black and white ghosts and rob them of the secret method that could double their strength. In the eyes of those who were observant, the black and white ghosts must have obtained a big opportunity somewhere since they appeared out of thin air. Secret methods were very common, but it was extremely rare for an intermediate dangling fisher to kill a peak-level dangling fisher with 2 slashes. Even in the Thousand-Star City, it was an extremely precious secret method. Some people said that no matter what kind of secret method it was, they had to pay a price. The black and white impermanents liked to cook people. Perhaps there was something mysterious about this. It was very likely that this was the price they had to pay for using this secret technique. In short, no matter what, the black and white ghosts became famous. On the dragon boat, the crowd was furious, thinking that the black and white ghosts were the shame of the cultivators. Because of their extremely cruel means, they should be killed like fish and crabs in the sea. But before the hunting team could be set up, another piece of news came out. It was said that Lian Qi, the shadow hunter ranked 75th on the wanted list, was hung on the bow of the ship by the black and white ghosts. For a time, many people fell silent. Being on the wanted list and not being on the wanted list were 2 different things. A person could be listed in the top 100 of the tens of millions of people in the level 3 fishery. How strong was he? Because of this news, the black and white ghosts became even more famous, and everyone knew that they were about to be on the wanted list. On the dragon boat, the news about the black and white ghosts spread everywhere, causing a great shock among the cultivators. At this time, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan had accelerated. Han Fei hadn't mastered the void-breaking technique very well, so he could only occasionally penetrate 100 meters of space. However, he didn't continue to cultivate. Lian Qi's death forced them to speed up. The reason why Han Fei and white ghosts wandered on the sea was that Lian Qi and white ghosts. Now, Lian Qi was tied by a rope and hung on the bow of the ship. This would definitely make the 2 of them the target of public criticism. This day, Xia Xiaochan looked at the sea map and said excitedly, "Han Fei, we are only 20,000 kilometers away from the steps into the sea. Should we go at full speed?" Han Fei was holding a brush in his hand, which was stained with cuttlefish ink sacs. He white. Boat white and white. And ghost, Qi and white ghosts. White white ghost, he, black N and white ghosts, and white Fei and Hua, Han Xia, Han were ghosts. Han Fei raised his head and smiled. "Wait a moment. I'll be done soon." Han Ghost Fei Ghost and said, "Han Fei." Han and Han Fei Ghost King Ghosts. Ghost, ghosts, white ghost. Fei and ghost. Ghosts. Han Fei grinned. "Of course. Now, we are the black and white ghosts, and we have nothing to do with Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. We are famous for our secret methods and we are famous for cooking people. The purpose of going to the steps into the sea is simply to seek opportunities. Xia Shaochan put her hands on her waist and tilted her head. But we can't use our spiritual beasts or contractual spiritual beasts. There is only one starfish left. Master Hexagon's big eyes kept rolling. Starfish don't fight. Xia Shaochan stomped her feet. Look, it says it doesn't fight. Han Fei finished the last brush, threw away the brush in his hand, looked up at the sky, and said solemnly, well, this is also a problem. I have to make up a story. Puff. Li Hani spurted a mouthful of blood and said to a peak-level dangling fisher behind him, of course I'm not Han Fei. Li Hani was going crazy. He was speechless. This was only the third time he had boarded a dragon boat. Previously, he had explored a mystic realm and obtained quite a few fortuitous opportunities. His cultivation soared and he reached the peak of an intermediate dangling fisher in one fell swoop. He believed that few people in the level 3 fishery could be faster than him. He also knew that Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were famous. Not only were the two people on the wanted list, but they also made big trouble. It was said that a great change had taken place in the sea grassland. In the center of the sea grassland, the most important tree was gone, which seemed to have something to do with Han Fei. A few days ago, there was news that the undersea city had collapsed. This seemed to have something to do with Han Fei. Li Hani certainly didn't want to admit defeat. When they were in the Blue Sea town, the two of them had fought before. He admitted that Han Fei was not weak. When the two of them first came to the level 3 fishery, Han Fei's realm was not higher than his, but how could Han Fei make so many big things? Therefore, he decided to go to the steps into the sea. According to the information he knew, there were many intermediate dangling fishers who went to the steps into the sea. On the contrary, there were a large number of beginner, intermediate, and advanced dangling fishers gathered at the steps into the sea. These people, regardless of their strength, could get opportunities on the steps into the sea. It was all about luck. Li Hani thought that few people in the Blue Sea town could be stronger than him. How could he not go there? But he didn't expect that as soon as he was 5,000 kilometers away from the dragon boat, he would be targeted. The other party's first sentence was, "You are not Han Fei." Li Hani retorted helplessly, "Of course I am not Han Fei. How could I be Han Fei?" The peak-level dangling fisher snorted. "Of course I know you are not Han Fei. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to come here. But although you are not Han Fei, you must know him, right?" Li Hani was surprised. "Why do you say that?" The peak-level dangling fisher said coldly, "When I was in the undersea city, he sneaked into the team of 100 people with your face. That was the team I led, but only 3 people survived in the end. Tell me, what is your relationship with Han Fei?" Li Hani. Li Hani cursed Han Fei's ancestors at that time. How dare this damn guy pretend to be me? Li Hani was furious. Now that we're out of the Blue Sea town, we're from the same hometown. Why do you pretend to be a fellow villager instead of an outsider? Is this what a human being should do? Li Hani immediately responded, I am actually Han Fei's enemy." Unexpectedly, the peak-level dangling fisher said with disdain, "You? Are you fucking bragging? Who do you think you are? How dare you be Han Fei's enemy?" Li Hani. The peak-level dangling fisher snorted coldly. "Tell me the truth, or I will kill you now." Li Hani almost cried. "What I said is the fucking truth. He and I are really enemies. When we were in the Blue Sea town, we were enemies when exploring a secret realm and even fought each other. Brother, I don't have to lie to you. If I really wanted to be on good terms with Han Fei, he wouldn't have pretended to be me." The peak-level dangling fisher looked at Li Hani for a few seconds and finally said leisurely, "This seems to make sense. However, I quite admire you. He has already used your face, but you still dare to appear on the dragon boat. TSK. Tell me, does Han Fei have any weaknesses? What kind of person is he?" Just as the peak-level dangling fisher asked, his expression suddenly changed. Immediately afterward, he saw a black and white fishing boat flying in his direction at a low altitude, and there seemed to be someone hanging on the bow of the boat. "Son of a bitch," the peak-level dangling fisher immediately exclaimed and dived into the water. He felt that he must have forgotten to check the almanac when he went out. He was really fucking lucky. He met Han Fei in the undersea city, and he met the black and white ghosts in the steps into the sea. Compared with the black and white ghosts, the peak-level dangling fisher thought that he was a little luckier to meet Han Fei. At least, he felt that Han Fei was a thief and didn't seem to kill people for no reason. However, the black and white ghosts were incredible. They cooked people and ate them. Look, these two psychopaths. If he didn't run away when he met them, wouldn't he be eaten? On the other hand, Li Honey's face turned green. When he realized what was going on, he found that the black and white fishing boat had already flown dozens of meters away and was hovering in the air. The two ghost heads were looking at him. Gulp. Li Honey's heart sank and he thought to himself, I'm going to die. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan looked at each other with a strange look on their faces. They were just in a hurry and saw a peak-level dangling fisher hijacking a boat, so they passed by to have a look. But when they took a closer look, wasn't this an old acquaintance? Han Fei said to her via voice transmission, in the undersea city, I pretended to be him. What do you think we should do? Let him go. Xia Shaochan thought, let him go. Of course not. What if he preaches that we black and white ghosts are not so vicious? Han Fei nodded slightly. It makes sense. Then let's kill him. Xia Shaochan was speechless. Why are you so cruel? After all, he is from the same hometown. It's not good to kill him, is it? Han Fei rolled his eyes. It's not good to let him go or kill him. What else can I do? I can't keep him as a follower, can I? Chapter 429. It's over, it's over, it's over. The distance was too close. Li Honey didn't dare to run or move. He was just an intermediate dangling fisher, a relatively ordinary one. Although he had some tricks up his sleeves, he could only be on par with ordinary advanced dangling fishers. However, the black and white ghosts were now notorious on the dragon boat, and they often cooked people. At this moment, the two people, one in black and one in white, seemed to be talking to each other via voice transmission. He was wondering if he was going to be cooked into a wok soon. At the thought of being cooked, Li Honey felt dizzy. In this case, he might as well be killed by the peak-level dangling fisher just now. As soon as Li Han saw the fishing boat landing and approaching, he felt that he was hopeless. Suddenly, Li Honey took out the armor box and put it in front of him. Don't even think about cooking me. Even if I blow myself up, I won't let you succeed. Han Fei looked at Xia Shaochan and clicked his tongue. This kid looks a little old. Will he be too hard to bite if I fry him? Xia Shaochan stared at Li Honey and looked him up and down. Yes, he is a little old. Will he not rot easily if he is steamed? Han Fei shook his head in disgust. Forget it. It's a waste of seasoning. I'd better not eat it. Li Honey's back was covered in cold sweat and his face turned green. Seeing the two of them seriously discussing whether to fry him or steam him, he really wanted to blow himself up. When he saw the disgusted expressions on Han Fei's and Xia Shaochan's faces, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As long as he wasn't eaten, it didn't matter. Suddenly, Han Fei changed the topic. Xia Xiaoan, don't you think you've seen this person somewhere? Xia Shaochan suddenly jumped onto Li Honey's fishing boat, approached him, and stared at him for a long time. He looks a little familiar. Have we eaten something like this before? Han Fei said grumpily, all you know is eating. Don't forget our purpose. We are going to the steps into the sea to hunt for treasures. Don't think about eating people. Xia Shaochan sighed. Okay then. Forget it, he's quite old anyway. Ah, wait. Did Han Fei use this face before? Han Fei exclaimed in surprise, huh? If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have remembered. Last time, the man we ate seemed to have drawn a portrait of Han Fei. He looked exactly like this. At that time, Li Hani only felt that his brain was exploding and his mind was blank. Fuck you. Han Fei, you son of a bitch. I'm not done with you, you've tricked me all the way to my grandma's house. Han Fei also jumped onto Li Hani's boat and stood upright, staring at Li Hani. However, he can't be Han Fei. He's too weak. Xia Shaochan said, even a fool can see that. Hey, what's your name? To be honest, my eyes can see through people's hearts. If you lie, I'll throw you into the cauldron and steam you for 3 days and 3 nights. You'll definitely be stewed until you're mushy. Li Hani's face turned green. My name is Li Hani. Han Fei nodded solemnly. Yes. You're honest and dare not lie to me. Tell me, what kind of person is Han Fei? Along the way, there were only rumors about him, and he actually overshadowed the two of us. Next time we meet, we must have a good talk with him. Xia Shaochan bared her teeth. Maybe he will be delicious. Han Fei shook his head. Stupid, I heard that Han Fei is a body refining cultivator. How long will it take to cook him? Li Hani's ears were buzzing. What kind of people are they? They always talk about cannibalism. There are so many fish and shrimp in the sea. Can't you eat them? Li Hani sweated profusely. Han Fei. He is a bastard, smack. Before Li Hani could say anything, he saw a big slap coming at him. The ferocity of the slap caused half of his face to swell up. Han Fei said with a straight face, no matter what, he is a fierce man of his generation. Do you think you can insult him? Talk to me, Tell me about his good points. Xia Shaochan tilted her head and glanced at Han Fei. She really wanted to kick this guy away. You want me to talk about your good points? You're shameless. Han Fei cheekily pretended that he was happy and enjoyed it. Li Hani was dumbfounded. Could it be that there was a mutual affection between two villains? Li Hani was speechless. Han Fei is actually cunning, smack, another big slap, which directly stunned Li Hani. Damn it, you should at least wait for me to finish speaking, you, Han Fei said, don't you know how to use words? How can a strong man be called cunning? Han Fei is also a first-class figure. Although he may not be comparable to the black and white ghosts, he is not someone you can insult. Li Hani felt that there were 10,000 ironhead fish galloping in his heart. Fuck, if it weren't for the fact that I can't beat you, I really want to slap you to death. Li Hani took a deep breath. Although Han Fei is not very talented, smack, this time, Li Hani was directly slapped away. Han Fei said with a sullen face, I fucking hate people like you who tell lies the most. How can he kill thousands of people if he is not very talented? Do you think I am a fool? Xia Shaochan couldn't stand it anymore. What he said seems to be right. If you keep slapping him, what if he blows himself up? Xia Shaochan immediately rolled her eyes at Han Fei. That's enough. Are you going to ask me or not? I'm going to slap all your teeth out. Don't you find it annoying? Han Fei smiled awkwardly at Xia Shaochan. Ha! Ha! Yes, yes. It's not good to be angry. I just can't stand these people. They are obviously not very good, but they always talk bad about others. They should give their opponents considerable respect. Han Fei said lazily, forget it, hang him up. Hang him next to Lian Qi. I think it's more impressive to hang 2 people on the boat. Li Hani's soul trembled and he hurriedly shouted, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'll tell you, I'll tell you. Han Fei is quite handsome and very strong. He can challenge people of higher levels. When he was a junior great fishing master, he could fight with an advanced great fishing master. And he could easily win. This person's physique is extremely strong. He seems to have cultivated some kind of extremely powerful body refining method. Among the younger generation, no one can beat him. Li Hani rambled on, and Han Fei nodded from time to time. Well, not bad, this is what a fierce person should look like. Go on. Smack, Xia Shaochan slapped Han Fei's arm and then pulled Han Fei's ear. Are you addicted to listening to stories? We have to hurry up. We have to go to the steps into the sea. What are you talking about all day long? Hey, hey. Let go of me. I'll hang him up first. Let's go. Li Hani was immediately ashamed and angry. You. How can you do this? Don't come over. Although I'm no match for you, I'd rather blow myself up. Han Fei rolled his eyes at Li Hani. I'm just hanging you up, not killing you. Why are you so nervous? I think you are a good storyteller. I'm waiting for you to tell me stories along the way. After a while, another cross was erected on Han Fei's black and white fishing boat. Li Hani was hung up on it, looking ashamed and angry. However, he glanced at Lian Qi, who had long been dead next door, and swallowed. He told himself, a real man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. Only by enduring what ordinary people can't endure can one achieve great things. As long as I can live, what's the harm in telling stories? At this moment, Li Hani, who was originally extremely cold and aloof, became a chatterbox. Along the way, Li Hani talked a lot. About the Thug Academy, the Thug Legend, Han Fei, the Fiery Mountain, and so on. In his opinion, the reason why the black and white ghosts inquired so much was that they wanted to kill Han Fei and snatch his opportunities when they met him one day. Therefore, the more detailed he was at this moment, the more likely the black and white ghosts were to win. Even if it only increased their chances of winning by half, it would be worth it. At this moment, he couldn't wait to skin Han Fei and torture him severely. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were not slow, using the ordinary fishing boat that Han Fei robbed Jiang Tong with. After more than half a day, they crossed the sea area of 20,000 kilometers. During this period, Han Fei and the others encountered no less than 100 fishing boats. However, when most of them saw them, they would flee at the sight of them from afar. So, soon there was a rumor that there was another person hanging on the bow of the black and white ghosts. Many people even asked curiously who the fellow hanging at the bow of the ship was. However, on the wanted list, they couldn't find him at all. The next morning, the sun rose and dyed the sky red. Suddenly, Xia Shaochan said, "We seem to have arrived at the steps into the sea." The first update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 430. Li Hani couldn't wait for the fishing boat to stop. As long as the fishing boat was still moving, Fan Datong had no time to boil the pot and cook. The black and white ghosts, in addition to asking Li Hani about Han Fei at the beginning, then began to ask about the steps into the sea. He answered all the questions in this regard. After all, this was basic common sense. As long as you stayed on the dragon boat long enough, you would eventually know about these very famous holy places. As for Han Fei, he really didn't want to kill Li Hani. In fact, he had saved Li Hani's life. After all, if Li Hani went out with this face, he probably wouldn't be able to reach the steps into the sea at all. The fishing boat traveled for another 1,000 kilometers. When they reached this place, there were more and more fishing boats coming and going. In fact, not only were there more, but there was an endless stream of them. Almost as long as they looked up, they would see a fishing boat passing by. As for Han Fei's black and white fishing boat, wherever it passed, there was almost no one. Others would avoid it as far as they could. The steps into the sea was different from the sea grassland and the undersea city. There were no difficulties and marine creatures here, and almost everyone was welcome here. From beginner dangling fishers to peak-level dangling fishers, there were countless people here. Come on, let's go. The black and white ghosts are coming. What? The black and white ghosts, how dare they appear on the steps into the sea so blatantly? Huh, why didn't anyone intercept them? These two people's guts are really boundlessly big. How dare they come here? Along the way, everyone who saw the black and white fishing boat couldn't help sighing with emotion. So did some peak-level dangling fishers. They always thought that someone should come forward to kill the black and white ghosts. At this time, Han Fei picked up the big pot and picked up a big spoon, seeming to be preparing to cook. We're only 1,000 kilometers away. There shouldn't be anyone intercepting us, right? Han Fei smiled faintly. I don't think so. They are all fishing boats that come and go freely, and no team is waiting for us. Who wants to be the first to attack? When the fishing boats sailed for another 500 kilometers, there were fishing boats everywhere on the sea. These people were not afraid. Although this was not the safe area of the steps into the sea, everyone seemed to have made an agreement. In this area, at most, there were sparring matches, fishing conversations, or trading with each other. There was no one who actually fought. When the black and white fishing boat flew over, many people exclaimed, "It's the black and white ghosts. How dare they?" Someone said indifferently, "Don't worry, here, not to mention the black and white ghosts, even Mo Qianshang, who ranks first on the wanted list, has to behave." Someone else frowned. These two people really don't have good reputations. Look, there are two people hanging on his fishing boat. Someone asked, besides Lian Qi, who is the other person? Many people were also looking at Li Hani. Because everyone discovered that this guy was actually still alive. This was simply a miracle. Didn't they say that the black and white impermanents were inhumane? Why was there a living person hanging on their fishing boat? Immediately, several fishing boats took off to stop Han Fei and Xia Shaochan. Han Fei looked at the 4 or 5 fishing boats in front of him and put down the big ladle in his hand. Next to the cauldron, a yellow-blooded sea cucumber had been cut into pieces and the cauldron had been boiling. A peak-level dangling fisher scolded, "Fan Datong, don't go too far. How long are you going to hang Lian Qi and this little brother?" Han Fei held the whetstone in his left hand and the blood-drinking knife in his right hand. At this moment, the blood-drinking knife was repeatedly rubbing against the whetstone. Han Fei said with a smile, "I'm going to cook some side dishes. Don't you see my pot is already boiling?" Wow, many people felt their blood freeze. Looking at Han Fei's smiling face, they didn't find him cute at all. Especially the sound of the blood-drinking knife rubbing against the whetstone, which was extremely harsh to many people. Soon, several fishing boats took off, and someone stared at Han Fei. "Fan Datong, where do you think this is?" "This is the steps into the sea. Everything must be done according to the rules. Do you want to cook people here?" Giggle, Xia Shaochan, wearing a crooked hat, giggled. "We haven't reached the steps into the sea yet. Why do you care about this?" Han Fei responded with a smile, yes, we are all in the level 3 fishery. How can you show mercy to others? Put away that face of yours." Someone said coldly, "The level 3 fishery is indeed dangerous, and people's hearts are terrible, but cooking people is too outrageous." "Fan Datong, Xie Xiaoan, we know you two have supreme secret methods. However, if you don't let go of this little brother and Lian Qi today, just wait for us to gang up on you." Han Fei laughed. "Look, what did I tell you? In fact, you just want Lian Qi. He died, but we didn't receive his reward. TSK. You're really smart. But what if I don't give it to you? What a domineering black and white ghosts. Originally, I thought that you were just fishing for fame and compliments. But today, it's a bit interesting." In the sky, a fishing boat landed. Han Fei's eyes narrowed slightly. Ghost Speed Divine Boat? Han Fei recognized it at a glance. The man's white fishing boat was engraved with dense speed arrays. A little fatty, who was only 14 or 15 years old, was laughing at Han Fei and even gave him a thumbs up. Han Fei grinned. "Wow, ghost speed divine boats are rare. The little fatty smiled and said, "Why, do you want it?" Han Fei chuckled. "If it is outside, of course I want it. But forget it here." "Well, you don't like Lian Qi, do you?" The little fatty looked as if he was watching a play. "Of course, how much is Lian Qi worth?" "No, no. However, it is indeed a windfall for these people. I just don't know who will snatch Lian Qi in the end. Why don't you throw Lian Qi out and see who wants it?" Han Fei chuckled. "Interesting. It seems to be fun. Let's throw him out." With that, Han Fei grabbed Lian Qi and threw him out, not caring which direction he was thrown in. Han Fei chuckled and said, "Hey! Lian Qi is yours. Whoever can snatch it depends on who has the ability." Whoop! The people who were still standing in front of Han Fei directly scattered and chased after Lian Qi's body. Someone shouted, "It's mine. Whoever dares to come in again, don't blame me for killing him." Someone sneered, "What do you mean it's yours? Since Lian Qi has been thrown away, he is ownerless." Someone had already grabbed Lian Qi and was ready to run directly to the steps into the sea. Unfortunately, after running for only a kilometer, someone caught up with him. At first, everyone was still bickering with each other, and then someone directly took action. Xia Shaochan frowned and looked at this scene. "Sure enough, everyone says we are ferocious. Look, this is the real ferociousness." The little fatty on the ghost speed divine boat said with a smile, "Of course, the level 3 fishery is like this. Interests are the most important thing. Fairness, justice, and justice are all fake." With that said, the little fatty glanced at Han Fei. "Aren't you going to snatch it back?" Han Fei slowly glanced at the little fatty. "What's there to snatch? We won't board the dragon boat, so we can't get the reward anyway. Just take it as a gift from the steps into the sea." The little fatty snorted, feeling bored. He thought Han Fei and Xia Shaochan would take the opportunity to kill him. However, he immediately looked at Li Hani and couldn't help but say in surprise, "This is..." Did Han Fei pretend to be this person? Han Fei shrugged and said, "Yes, we were going to cook him." Xia Shaochan pretended to complain. "No, the meat is too old and not delicious." With that, Xia Shaochan seemed to take out a head from her sea-swallowing seashell. It was a beautiful little girl. Xia Shaochan said, "I want to eat this." The little fatty on the ghost speed divine boat suddenly had a slight change in expression, and he exclaimed, "What the fuck, you guys really eat people?" Xia Shaochan couldn't help but stare at the little fatty. "I think you should taste good. White, tender, chubby, cute." The little fatty shivered slightly, not because of Xia Shaochan's strength, but because of Xia Shaochan's mentality. "In your eyes, I'm just a piece of white, tender meat?" Han Fei pretended to blame him. "Hey, don't say that. Although it does look a bit delicious, they have the ghost speed divine boat. I'm afraid their background is not simple." The little fatty sneered. "Come on, I was almost scared by you. Black and white ghosts, black and white ghosts. Hey! Are you going to eat this person or not?" Han Fei looked at Xia Shaochan, and Xia Shaochan pouted. No, he's like a turtle shell. He's not delicious." Li Hani felt that his tears were about to fall. "I dare not ask, and I dare not say." At that moment, he liked Xie Xiaoan so much. That Fan Datong was a shameless person, always asking if he wanted to eat him up. Fortunately, Xie Xiaoan disliked him very much. Otherwise, he didn't know what to do. For the first time in his life, he felt that being disliked was an extremely wonderful thing. The little fatty chuckled. "If you don't want to eat him, then let him go. If you really eat him, you will really be beaten to death. However, I quite like you too. Let's form an alliance, okay?" Second update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 431. Originally, Han Fei kept Lian Qi alive just to show off his identity as the black and white ghosts. Now that they had reached the steps into the sea, Lian Qi was useless to him. As for Li Hani, he had planned to save him. After all, Li Hani was from the Blue Sea town. Although there were conflicts between them, they were insignificant compared to the fighting in the level 3 fishery. Besides, Li Hani was actually not weak and had the mentality of a strong master. Maybe he could become one of the few heavenly talents in the Blue Sea town in the future. It would be a pity if he died like this. Now, with this little fatty's proposal, Han Fei had a good reason to let him go. Han Fei said reluctantly, "I've been hanging for a whole day." Originally, he wanted to eat it. Forget it. You have a ghost speed divine boat, so you must be a big shot. I'll believe you for the time being. Li Hani's tears almost fell. No one knew how he had managed to get through this day. His heart was in his throat. Just now, when Han Fei was cooking the pot, he almost fainted. Now, his luck had changed, and he even had an impulse to cry with joy. Han Fei kicked him away. "You're lucky. However, you have a problem. You're always criticizing others. That's not good. Next time you go out, say more good things about the black and white ghosts. At least we're straightforward." Li Hani free fell into the sea, and his heart was in turmoil. What the fuck is your straightforwardness? Bastard, you're the most shameless one. The little fatty didn't care about Li Hani at all. After all, Li Hani was just an ordinary intermediate dangling fisher. In this level 3 fishery, there were too many of them. The little fatty said happily, "Hey, Fan Datong, is human flesh delicious?" Han Fei said with a smile, "The younger they are, the more delicious they are. Besides, it depends on the body part. For example, boys." With that, Han Fei looked at the little fatty up and down. "For example, the oil on your belly is not bad. Your chubby little face must be very tender and smooth. And your palms, they feel sticky in your mouth. The meat is very unusual." The little fatty was creeped out by Han Fei's stare. What the hell is this guy? Did he gain experience from eating humans? Xia Shaochan giggled. "Little fatty, what's your name?" The little fatty wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled and said, "My name is Chao Qiu, from the Chao family in the Thousand Star City. I was born extraordinary and have a wide range of interests." He was quite proficient in smithing, alchemy, formations, and inventions. Especially my invention. "Look, this ghost speed divine boat was invented by me." Pfft, Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were speechless. They had never seen such a shameless person before. However, the ghost speed divine boat was invented by this little fatty. Rubbing the whetstone with the blood-drinking knife, Han Fei asked, "So, Bal Chao, why do you want to come with us? Aren't you afraid of us?" Chao Qiu puffed up his face and said, "It's not Chao Qiu, it's Chao Qiu. What's wrong with being with you guys? Don't tell me you're really going to eat me." After that, the little fatty suddenly said telepathically, "Han Fei, Xia Shaochan, you're really bold and gutsy. Now you dare to come to the steps into the sea alone. Just this alone shows that you two are very different." Han Fei and Xia Shaochan's faces suddenly changed, and their auras faintly rose as if they were ready to kill this little fatty at any time. Han Fei was shocked. Fuck, I and Xia Shaochan have been acting for so long, but they were seen through at a glance. Chao Qiu lay on the edge of the boat. Don't be excited, don't be excited. I'm a genius. Others can't find this at all. Your disguise is really brilliant. If I hadn't invented the demon peeping mirror, I really wouldn't have found it." Han Fei rubbed his nose with a smile. "Little fatty, are you sure you didn't see it wrong? Do we look like Han Fei and Xia Shaochan?" The little fatty sat up a little, took out a pile of small dried fish, threw one into his mouth, and said, "Because of your faces." The flow of spiritual energy on your faces is a little more than that of ordinary people. And this flow seems to be very rhythmic. According to my guess, you must have used some kind of disguise or camouflage technique. Besides, you happen to be a man and a woman, and both of you are intermediate dangling fishers. Xia Xiaochan said coquettishly, this doesn't mean that we have something to do with Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. The little fatty said confidently, yes, there are people of all levels in the steps into the sea, but you have gone too far. Especially Fan Datong, you killed a peak-level dangling fisher with 2 slashes. Well, think about the time when you appeared. In fact, it was about the same time when Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan left the undersea city. On the surface, you deliberately spread the news that you were going to the 10,000 Smoke Valley, but the black and white ghosts became famous on the steps into the sea in a blink of an eye. Han Fei smiled and said, that's not a big deal. There are so many talents in the level 3 fishery. Are you saying that only Han Fei is talented and no one else is allowed to excel? The little fatty narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, yes. But you have too many things in common. Most importantly, every time, you people would let him go to make a name for yourself. What are your intentions? The only thing I don't understand is, do you really eat people? Han Fei said to Xia Xiaochan via voice transmission, this little fatty seems to be very smart, right? Xia Xiaochan responded, he seems to be very smart. Although he can't prove our identity, his tone is very sure. Seeing the two of them whispering, the little fatty waved his hand and said, don't try to kill me. We can cooperate. I have always wanted to kill Yang Diyu, Mo Fian, and the others, especially Mo Fian. Well, those people are more annoying than the other. Let's work together. Let's kill them together. At that time, I will help you hide your life tablets and help you escape from the level 3 fishery. How about that? Han Fei continued to sharpen the whetstone. Ah! Little fatty, you really got the wrong person. We are really not Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. As for the Yang Diyu and Mo Fian you mentioned. Who are they? The little fatty immediately said angrily, don't pretend. In my eyes, your disguise is full of flaws. Are you worried that I will want the sea token? I don't care about that thing. Only those who have no ability will rob this thing. For me, exploring the secrets behind the sea quelling painting is far more meaningful than the sea token. Suddenly, Han Fei's eyes turned cold and he was shocked. Is the sea token related to the sea quelling painting? He really wanted to kidnap this little fatty and interrogate him. Many people might have mentioned the sea token, but this was the second time he had heard about the sea quelling painting. The first time was when Jiang Qin ran away with old Jiang because of the sea quelling painting. The two seemed to have gone to the unknown place. The little fatty seemed to find that he had said too much, so he quickly covered his mouth. Oh! I didn't say anything. Well, anyway. The sea token is actually not as useful as you think. When I was 8 years old, I played with it as a toy. It's not interesting at all. Han Fei, Xia Xiaochan glanced at Han Fei. It seems that we have been exposed. This little fatty seems to be very powerful. Han Fei looked at the little fatty and said, how about I go to your boat? The little fatty chuckled. What are you eating? I'm coming. The ghost speed divine boat disappeared, and the little fatty sat on Han Fei's boat. He happened to sit next to the big pot, smelling the smell in the pot and couldn't help drooling. Han Fei? Xia Xiaochan? Han Fei asked, Chao Xiaoqiu, aren't you afraid that I will kill you? The little fatty made a face at Han Fei. You don't dare. Let's not talk about whether you can kill me or not. If I die, you can't run away. Xia Xiaochan asked, why? Because you also have that so-called life tablet. The little fatty rubbed his hands, looking forward to the yellow-blooded sea cucumber in the pot, and said, it looks delicious. When he saw the confusion on Han Fei's and Xia Xiaochan's faces, he said indifferently, on the one hand, it's the life tablet. On the other hand, all the children of the big clans in the Thousand-Star City who come to the level 3 fishery will be given life-saving treasures such as amulets and dying strike. If they are really talented, they will be given an immortal seal. Anyway, you can't kill me. Han Fei was really speechless. In his heart, he immediately cursed Old by hundreds of times. Look at him. He always gives this and that. However, when he goes out, he gives spiritual weapons and sea-swallowing seashells. These two things are everywhere in the level 3 fishery. Why the fuck are these gifts? Xia Xiaochan wondered, what are these things? The little fatty muttered, life tablet, you know it, right? If you really kill me, my family will immediately know and then come to kill me. The amulet is a life-saving talisman that can resist many attacks. The dying strike is a restriction that is sealed in the body. When you are almost dead, it will burst out, and the strike of the family's strong master is sealed in it. It is set up according to the strength of the person who is sealed, usually one realm higher. As for the immortal seal, it means immortality. It can be exchanged for a life. Even if you are killed, you can live again. Chapter 432. A distance of 500 kilometers was a very short distance for a fishing boat. When the fishing boat arrived at the steps into the sea, Han Fei saw a huge super platform, on which people were standing. Many people were sitting on the ground, with a layer of fish skin under them, on which various things were placed. Here, it was like a flea market, and the atmosphere was very lively. Of course, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan, who came here for the first time, were still wondering where this platform came from. The two of them couldn't see any traces of land at all, just a huge water platform. It seemed that the surface of the sea was frozen, forming a large piece of transparent glass, and everyone was walking freely on it. It doesn't make sense. Is this the fucking seawater frozen? It doesn't seem cold. Han Fei was still thinking. Look, the black and white ghosts are here. Someone shouted, black and white ghosts, get out of the steps into the sea. You are not welcome here. Some people were very unhappy and were very disgusted by the sight of the black and white fishing boat. More and more people gathered around. They all wanted to see what the black and white ghosts, the two guys who ate people, looked like. At this time, the black and white fishing boat disappeared. Han Fei held a cauldron bigger than him in one hand and descended from the sky. And Xia Xiaochan was standing on his shoulder. Two people, one wearing a tall, long, crooked hat. On the hat were written the words, haunting ghosts, and, ghosts want to kill. Because their clothes were too strange, one of them was completely black while the other was completely white. The first impression they gave off was that they didn't look like good people. So when Han Fei landed with the cauldron, many people retreated to the periphery. Coming down with Han Fei was the little fatty of the Chow family. As soon as he appeared, he was recognized. Oh! It's Chao Qiu. Ha! Why is Chao Qiu with the black and white ghosts? Son of a bitch, does Chao Qiu also eat people? Oh my god, Chao Qiu is a real genius. Are the black and white ghosts also extraordinary? There was a lot of discussion around, and everyone was guessing the origins of Han Fei. Han Fei tilted his head and looked at Chao Qiu. Are you famous? Chao Qiu said proudly, of course, I'm very famous. The first ghost speed divine boat was made by me here. It took me only a month. I even obtained a great opportunity here, and many people are envious of me. I also. Chao Qiu bragged about his past achievements. Pulling out a big turtle from the steps into the sea, breaking someone's record, and creating some kind of weapon, Han Fei's face was black. This little fatty is shameless. I really don't know how he became an advanced dangling fisher. Yes, Chao Qiu was only an advanced dangling fisher. But such a person couldn't really be regarded as an advanced dangling fisher, just like others wouldn't regard Han Fei as an intermediate dangling fisher. Xia Xiaochan asked, should we eat first? After eating, we can go for a stroll. Chow Chou rubbed his hands. Yes, yes, we are teammates now. Besides inventing, I also like cooking. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Usually fat people like to cook. Chow Chou scoffed. Who said that? This is a hobby. For example, if you boil a sea cucumber, you can't cook it like that. Your skills are not good, so you have to add some spirit fruits. If you stir it with a variety of spirit fruits, it will be more delicious. Xia Shaochan sneered. What do you know? It's not ready yet. Chow Chou was surprised. Huh? Isn't it already cooked? Han Fei smiled faintly. Cooked? Can it be eaten when it's cooked? You're underestimating my unrivaled cooking skills. Chow Chou. Under everyone's surprised gaze, Han Fei poured out the soup in the pot with a splash. Then, a tablespoon of oil rolled into the pot. Xia Shaochan also had a pot in her hand. She filled the sea cucumber and drained it, and the blood-drinking knife in Han Fei's hand danced in the sky. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen kinds of seasonings fell into the oil pot. Sparks sprayed up to a distance of 30 feet in an instant, causing many people to cry out in surprise. Then, to Chow Chou's astonishment, Xia Shaochan poured the drained sea cucumber pieces into Han Fei's pot. Then, Han Fei began to toss the sea cucumber. With a splash, a piece of sea cucumber with flames and seasoning was thrown 3 meters into the air. And Han Fei didn't stop there. He took out an energy spiritual fruit containing nearly 70,000 points of spiritual energy from Forge the Universe. When the juice and the sea cucumber flew, Han Fei smashed them with a knife and melted them into the pot. At that moment, mystic light shone, and flames spurted out 10 meters high. When the sea cucumber and the juice fell into the pot, Han Fei threw the pot to the ground, and the aroma suddenly soared into the sky. Han Fei raised his head and shouted, "Look at my spirit ginseng in sauce." What do you think? A string of data appeared in his eyes. Name a spirit ginseng in sauce. Introduction: a food cooked with the essence of yellow-blooded sea cucumber and a variety of ingredients, supplemented with energy spiritual fruits. The fragrance wafts for hundreds of kilometers. It tastes smooth and elastic, very tough, and full of energy. It's very rare. Level 29 Quality Rare. Contains spiritual energy greater than 86,688 points. Edible effect. Provides a huge amount of energy and can improve your physique by 40% in a short period of time, 6 hours. Gulp. Chow Chou sat on the ground, his saliva overflowing from his mouth. He stared dumbfoundedly at the yellow-blooded sea cucumber in the pot and licked his lips from time to time. The corners of Chow Chou's mouth trembled. Son of a bitch. How can you cook like this? Not only Chow Chou, but many onlookers were also stunned. A person who could cook more fancy than fighting. This Fan Datong really lived up to his name. He was simply a peerless weirdo. The hexagon starfish hung on Han Fei's leg and secretly said to him, "Can I still eat it now?" Han Fei snorted. You are now a stupid contractual spiritual beast. What can you eat? You can only eat when there is no one around. Chow Chou wiped his mouth carelessly with his sleeve, picked up a large piece of sea cucumber, and gnawed on the spot. Chomp! As soon as he bit down, the rich soup rolled over Chow Chou's taste buds. The rolling aroma rushed into his nostrils and soaked into his mind. He shivered all over and then said in a trembling voice, "Impossible, impossible. How can there be such delicious things in the world? Oh. Come on." Just after the little fatty roared, 2 peak-level dangling fishers immediately ran over from the crowd. "Young master, what can I do for you?" Chow Chou shouted, "Go buy me 1,000 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers. I will eat this every day from now on. Also, buy me a big pot, a big spoon, a kitchen knife, a whetstone. Nothing less, do you hear me?" "Yes, young master." Chow Chou wolfed down the food without any table manners. Xia Shaochan also grabbed a yellow-blooded sea cucumber and laughed while gnawing. Hey, genius, are you still bragging now? Can you cook this dish? Chao Chio's mouth was full of sea cucumber and he looked at Han Fei with shining eyes. I can learn it. I can definitely learn it well. There is nothing in this world that I can't learn. Han Fei ate a large piece of sea cucumber and muttered, Did I say I would teach you? Chao Chio nodded. I've seen it. I can learn it. Alas. But what kind of spiritual fruit did you use at the beginning? I don't think I've seen it before. And, what kind of black and sour water is it? Where did it come from? Han Fei's lips curled into a smile. That's the ancestral secret recipe. Chao Chio waved his little hand and said, I'll buy it from you. Han Fei shrugged indifferently and said, The point is that I don't lack anything. This is an ancestral secret recipe of mine. It's so precious that it's worth a divine weapon. Puff, the onlookers who were eating fish were all drooling. However, they were all shocked by Han Fei's words. What the fuck is an ancestral recipe worth a divine weapon? Do you think divine weapons are cabbages? Chao Chio's eyes widened. Then forget it. I can't afford it. But I will figure it out. I've already memorized it. Han Fei smacked his lips and said, But, since we are teammates now, I can give you some. But, I don't have any ingredients. This is the only yellow-blooded sea cucumber I have. When Chao Chio heard that Han Fei was going to give him some seasonings, he was overjoyed. That's not a big deal. I'll buy some later and give them all to you. I'll keep a few to experiment. In the crowd, Li Hani, who had swum here from underwater, finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, when he saw the scene of Fan Datong cooking, a strange look appeared on his face. Does Han Fei also seem to know how to cook? After eating and drinking, the three of them were full of energy and spiritual energy. However, the three of them didn't intend to cultivate but wandered on the steps into the sea. Xia Shaochan asked telepathically, When are we going down the stairs? Chapter 433. Chao Chio's belly was round and he chuckled. Are you going down the steps into the sea now? Don't you think the steps into the sea is too simple? Xia Shaochan asked, What do you mean? The little fatty's belly trembled. This is the first time you've come to the steps into the sea. Don't listen to hearsay. The scuffle between the first and 50th floors of the steps into the sea, killing and robbing, sacrificing and getting treasures. Let me tell you, it's all a lie. All the talented guys are down there. Han Fei was taken aback. What? Isn't it said that the steps into the sea is a scene of tens of thousands of people fighting each other? Why do you sound like it's not that simple? Oh, which fool told you that? Han Fei's eyes turned cold. Did Li Hani tell me the wrong information? The little fatty threw a piece of black iron on a stall, then grabbed a can of sea green tree sap and slurped it. Then he said to Han Fei and Xia Shaochan, On the steps into the sea, there is basically nothing decent for sale. What you can see are some low-level spiritual weapon materials and spirit-level combat skills. The more advanced ones are selling some better materials. But for us, it's useless. Han Fei asked, But where did these people get so many materials? The little fatty said matter-of-factly, Of course. Xia Shaochan wondered, With whom? The little fatty nodded. With the steps into the sea. Oh. You don't know, in fact, the steps into the sea are not really steps for you to go down. This is just a name. In fact, this is a large altar. You will be rewarded for your efforts. Chao Chio suddenly changed his words and explained, Let's talk via voice transmission. Many people don't know about it, so I can't tell them everything. Chao Chio talked for nearly half an hour, and the faces of Han Fei and Xia Shaochan changed many times. The two looked at each other from time to time. According to Chao Chio, the the steps into the sea was an extremely weird place, so weird that it was scary, as if someone was controlling this treasure that everyone yearned for. In Chao Chiu's description, the essence of the steps into the sea was an altar in the sea. Anyone who wanted to get a chance from the steps into the sea, whether they were on the 1st or 100th floor, needed to make a sacrifice to the altar. The only difference was that the price of sacrifice on the first level was very low, while the price of sacrifice on the 100th level was very high. The offerings could be spiritual chi, weapons, materials, spiritual fruits, or marine creatures. It was said that after reaching the 100th floor, a sacrifice, if converted into spiritual energy, would be at least 10,000 points of spiritual energy. As for the specific number, Chao Chiu was not sure. 10,000 points of spiritual energy was not a lot in Han Fei's eyes. But that was only for him. In fact, the total spiritual energy of a peak-level dangling fisher was only about 5,000 points. So, was 10,000 points of spiritual energy a lot? That was a lot. However, for some rich people, such as little fatty Chow in front of him, after only one meal, he asked his subordinates to buy 1,000 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers for him to experiment on. This kind of inhumane person could take a lot of spiritual fruits with him. However, this little fatty was really generous. Of the 1,000 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers, 990 were already in his Forge the Universe. In fact, the steps into the sea was not so simple. You paid the price to make a sacrifice, but you couldn't get a chance directly. On the contrary, the price you paid was just a summoning ritual. You needed to fight the creatures you summoned, and then it was possible to get these things from these creatures. Of course, some people were luckier. After paying the corresponding price, they directly summoned the corresponding reward. As for how good the reward was, it was hard to say. According to what Han Fei had learned from Li Hani, for example, on the first 50 floors of the steps into the sea, there were a large number of people fighting because everyone wanted to rob each other. The adventurers' agreement was that it was completely safe on the sea platform. No matter who came, they had to behave, otherwise they would face everyone's pursuit. However, after entering the steps into the sea, it was a different story. For example, someone made a sacrifice on the first floor of the steps into the sea and got a treasure as a result. If someone else saw it and also wanted this treasure, then the other party might attack and kill you. According to the little fatty, there was once a person who was extremely lucky. On the 49th floor, he made a sacrifice. As a result, a divine weapon appeared. However, the result was that in less than 10 breaths of time, that person's divine weapon was killed by someone else. Then, more and more people knew about the divine weapon. At first, hundreds of people were fighting, but in the end, it directly evolved into tens of thousands of people fighting. In the end, a dragon boat came, and a large number of dangling fishers came out in full strength, fighting fiercely. In the end, according to incomplete statistics, as many as 50,000 people died because of that divine weapon. It could be seen how terrifying treasures were. Han Fei was still thinking at this moment. Who on earth snatched Lian Qi's body? How big of a commotion did this cause? Chao Chiu said to Han Fei and Xia Shaochan with a smile, so, in fact, the further down you go, the better the opportunities you get from the sacrifice. Do you know the guy who went down to the 208th floor? Han Fei nodded. Yes, how is he? Chao Chiu chuckled. It's me, you, my brother. Han Fei was lost for words. Can't you speak more clearly? Damn, I was scared to death. Chao Chiu chuckled. Then my brother's opportunity is also my opportunity, isn't it? That day, he got a broken shipwreck. I used that broken shipwreck to create the ghost speed divine boat. Aren't I very powerful? Come on, praise me, praise me. Han Fei glanced at the little fatty contemptuously. What about you? How many floors? Chao Chiu took a sip of tree juice and said, actually, I'm not bad. I reached the 148th floor. I heard that you made a big noise in the sea grassland, so I went to have a look. However, when I got there, I found that you had already finished the battle. The central area of the sea grassland is completely in a state of chaos, and many people have died. Han Fei was taken aback. You also went to the sea grassland? Chao Chiu casually threw away the jug of tree juice in his hand, and someone immediately picked it up. For him, this thing was worthless. However, for others, this wooden jug was also a material, at least at the level of refining high-quality magic weapons. Chao Chiu chuckled. Not only did I go to the sea grassland, but I also went to the undersea city. However, when I went there, the city had collapsed into rubble and was full of scars. There was nothing to see there. When I heard that you went to the Valley of 10,000 Smokes, I thought that place was boring and you wouldn't go there. So I randomly explored 2 secret realms and then came back. I didn't expect that I would meet you here. Don't you think it's amazing? Han Fei was speechless. Is this little fatty the type of person who has nothing to do all day long? He's really good at running. This place is more than 100,000 kilometers away from the sea grassland. And the sea grassland is not close to the undersea city. In this way, the little fatty has run 500,000 or 600,000 kilometers. Chao Chiu laughed. Let's walk around first. In a while, we will reach the central area of the steps into the sea. The things in that place are slightly better, most of which are produced on the 80th floor or so. Let's see if there is anything worth buying. We have some. In this way, after entering the steps into the sea, we will have something to sacrifice. Xia Shaochan pulled Han Fei. We don't seem to have that much money. Before Han Fei spoke, the little fatty smiled and said, This. You don't have to worry about it. As your teammate, how about I sponsor you 5 million mid-quality pearls? It's impossible for you to pass the 200th floor. However, it's definitely not a problem for you to reach the 150th floor. Then, you have to see if you have anything on you. Or, if you don't have money or spiritual energy, it doesn't matter. You can go down and rob. Many people down there are doing this. Maybe we won't even have to spend a single cent and we'll reach the 100th floor. Xia Shaochan grinned. I like this. I prefer your 5 million mid-quality pearls. Chao Chiu waved his hand generously and said, You're welcome. This little money is nothing. As long as we work together, we can go down and kill Yang Deyu and the others. Yes, kill them all. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. How big of a grudge do you have? Chao Chiu's face turned ugly. Big, it's boundlessly big. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The first time I saw you, I knew that our friendship would be strong. Han Fei, Xia Shaochan, Han Fei ignored him. They were all from the big families of the 1,000-star city. This matter could not be casually agreed to. Who knew what else would be involved in this? However, what made Han Fei even more excited was that the people down there could rob them at will. Chao Chiu patted his belly. Feel free to grab it. It's even easier for you guys to steal in disguise. After they came out, they didn't even know who robbed them. Han Fei looked at the little fatty speechlessly. Have you robbed a lot? Chao Chiu scoffed. Why would I rob those useless things? I'll just steal my brother's. Han Fei. Chapter 434. The appearance of Han Fei and Xia Shaochan caused a commotion along the way. However, no one was afraid of them. Because this was above the steps into the sea, no matter how cruel and fierce the black and white ghosts were, they didn't dare to attack at will. Besides, God knew why the black and white ghosts were with the little fatty of the Chao family. Along the way. Hey! Young Master Chao, you're back. Here is the frozen fish marrow produced on the 66th floor. It's iced and delicious. Would you like a cup? Chao Chiu held his head high. No, my stomach is about to explode. I can't drink anymore. Someone said, young Master Chow, I have a broken mirror from the 82nd floor. Although I don't know what it's used for, I feel it's extraordinary at first glance. How about you take a look at it? Chow Chio took this mirror, looked at it casually, and immediately threw it aside. This is just a mirror. Maybe a little girl dropped it on the ground. It's useless. Someone hurriedly ran over, holding a stone and said, young Master Chow, look at this. Is there something special about this egg? I got it from the 99th floor. Maybe it will hatch into a peerless fierce beast. Chow Chio snorted. Can it hatch into a fierce beast? Can you show it to me? Get out of the way. This is just a piece of broken stone. Seeing many people showing their things to Chow Chio as if they were presenting treasures, Han Fei couldn't help but ask, do you often come here to collect junk? Chow Chio was stunned. Collect junk? Am I collecting trash? I have a pair of eyes that are good at discovering things. Nothing good can escape my discerning eyes. I am a genius. Xia Shaochan curled her lips. Stupid. How dare you call yourself a genius? Chow Chio looked unhappy. You can't say that. Although I look stupid. Bah. Although I look a little fat, you can't say I am stupid. I am very smart. Han Fei smiled and shook his head. Yes, you are smart. Is this the core trading area you mentioned? In Han Fei's view, the things here were not bad. With just a casual glance, he saw a broken supreme-grade spiritual weapon on sale. If it was repaired, it might even return to its original sharpness. Xia Shaochan said, Datong, look at this dagger. Han Fei was lost for words. Cough, well, You're a battle soul master, why do you need a dagger? Xia Shaochan suddenly remembered that she was now called Xia Xiaoan. She couldn't help but stick out her tongue. Chow Chio was speechless. How dare you say you're not Han Fei and Xia Shaochan? Now you've exposed yourself. Only when a hunter saw a dagger would it be like seeing a lover. After walking for a while, Han Fei saw all kinds of things on the roadside, including spiritual wood, spiritual plants, exotic demonic fish, special crab pincers, boa tendons, snake gallbladders, mystic stones, mystic crystals, tortoise shells, combat skills. A lot of things, all of which seemed to be in good condition. It was just that, it was still far from what he wanted. Even so, Han Fei still bought a lot of things and threw out a lot of mid-quality pearls. The things that Han Fei bought usually had a very interesting feature, which was that they were particularly bright, shiny, and dazzling. Chow Chio couldn't help but ask, hey, why did you buy so many shiny things? Aren't you afraid that you'll be blinded by them? Han Fei smiled weirdly. It's okay. I like them. Secretly, Han Fei complained to the hexagon starfish, Master Hexagon, that's enough. Do you know how much money you just spent? That's 300,000 mid-quality pearls. The hexagon starfish responded, I've set up arrays and killed enemies for you. But, until now, I haven't got a single shiny treasure, Han Fei chuckled. Okay, I'll buy them for you. However, the upper limit is 500,000 mid-quality pearls. If you have more than this number, I'll sell you. As he spoke, he saw someone hurriedly run to an empty space not far away. He spread a fish skin map on the ground and waved his hand, and a bunch of messy things fell on the fish skin map. Among them, there was an extremely dazzling flash, and many people's eyes unconsciously avoided it. The man was about to shout, but when he turned his head, he found that Chow Chio was not far away. He immediately waved at Chow Chio and said, young Master Chow, I have a treasure here. And Han Fei heard Master Hexagon Starfish's hurried shout, I want it. I want this treasure. Xia Shaochan asked, you're going to buy this lazy starfish again? Isn't it? The Hexagon Starfish said, this is a treasure, this is really a big treasure. Han Fei's face was black. Shut up. I'll see for myself whether it's a treasure or not. Han Fei and Chao Qiu stepped forward at the same time. Chao Qiu grabbed the glowing thing and took a look at it, only to feel that his eyes were almost dazzled. He immediately tilted his head. What the hell is this? I can't see it, I can't see it. This kind of mystic crystal has appeared before. If you wear it for a long time, it can stabilize your spiritual power and soul. It's not a good thing. In Han Fei's eyes, there was another piece of information. Name a soul crystal. Introduction: a mystic crystal with a broken soul. Usually, only hidden fissures and above or creatures will give birth to soul crystals after they die. It belongs to ownerless souls, which can be suppressed by spiritual power and nourished and swallowed by the soul. It can increase the power of the soul. Level 1 soul crystal effect. It can slightly strengthen the power of the soul. Han Fei was taken aback and immediately asked, Master Hexagon Starfish, you know what this is, don't you? The hexagon starfish secretly opened its eyes a little and then rolled its eyes slightly. I don't know. Han Fei smiled. Master Hexagon Starfish, you are getting more and more dishonest now. Isn't this a soul crystal? Why didn't you tell me? Alright, since you're hiding it, then it's destined that you're not fated to be with it. Hey! Wait a minute. The hexagon starfish was shocked. You know this is a soul crystal. I know astronomy, I know geography, I know the universe, and I know the universe. You lied to me. This is a big deal. I'll use this soul crystal myself. The hexagon starfish's claws clung to Han Fei tightly. I'll tell you, but give me this soul crystal, okay? Han Fei asked, that depends on what you're going to say next. Tell me about it. The hexagon starfish's claws drooped and he responded helplessly. Usually, creatures above level 50 will produce soul crystals after death. Some powerful creatures will even produce soul crystals after death after level 40. This soul crystal is ownerless. Any living being can actually absorb it to strengthen their own divine soul. Han Fei asked, what else? The hexagon starfish didn't dare to lie anymore. It could only respond, also, soul crystals are actually also divided into levels. This is like the spiritual heritage of you humans and the demonic heritage of sea monsters. This white soul crystal is actually the most common soul crystal. As for the specifics, I don't know. I'm still young and have little contact with it. Han Fei's face changed slightly. Don't pretend to be young. Look at yourself, you are hundreds of years old. Why are you still pretending to be young? Seeing Chao Qiu's lack of interest, the guy selling the soul crystal was a little disappointed. However, before he could take back the soul crystal, he heard Han Fei suddenly say, I want this thing. How much is it? Chao Qiu gave Han Fei a weird look. What do you want this thing for? Han Fei shrugged. I want to buy it for fun. Chao Qiu said, you know this is a soul crystal. This level 1 soul crystal looks dazzling, but in fact, it's not very useful. A level 1 soul crystal is of poor quality and slow absorption. Even if you absorb it all, it may not enhance your soul power much. Han Fei said in surprise, then why did you lie to me that this is an ordinary soul crystal? Chao Qiu rolled his eyes. Of course I can't tell ordinary people about this. If I tell them, the price of this thing will soar. At that time, how can I buy it when it's produced? At this moment, Han Fei found that the little fatty was quite cunning. Maybe it was not that he was cunning, but the consensus of these children of aristocratic families who had seen the world. He didn't intend to let ordinary people know about this kind of thing. Seeing that Han Fei wanted to buy it, the man was immediately overjoyed. He had just come out of the steps into the sea and had never heard of the black and white ghosts. Although Han Fei's clothes were weird, he didn't care about it at all. Oh, brother, it took me a lot of effort to get this. But you are a friend of young Master Chao, so I won't give you a high price. 100,000 mid-quality pearls will do. Before he finished speaking, Chao Chiu put his hands on his waist and his belly. Hey! Tell me, how much is it? The man looked embarrassed and then hurriedly said, My bad memory. 50,000, only 50,000 mid-quality pearls. This price is fair and honest. Chao Chiu waved his hand and said, Okay, 30,000 mid-quality pearls it is. The seller. Han Fei's eyes widened. Really? Xia Xiaochan's beautiful eyes flickered. It's so interesting to bargain like this. In the end, Han Fei spent 30,000 mid-quality pearls to buy this soul crystal. However, Han Fei didn't care so much about the soul crystal now. Instead, he looked at Chao Chiu suspiciously. Are you so familiar with these people? Why do I feel that everyone here knows you? Chapter 435. Han Fei was playing with this soul crystal, and the hexagon starfish on his shoulder was clinging to Han Fei at this moment, looking hungry and thirsty. Han Fei asked, Are there many soul crystals in the steps into the sea? Chao Chiu shook his head slightly. Not many before the 148th floor. Han Fei said with a black face, Don't talk about how you reached the 148th floor. What happened after that? Chao Chiu tilted his head, pretending to be thinking hard, and said, I heard that as long as it is above the 150th floor, the production of soul crystals is not bad. Between the floors, about every 100 sacrifices, there will always be one soul crystal. Above the 150th floor, there may be 2. What the fuck is this okay? 100 times? Han Fei calculated. In this way, soul crystals were not cheap at all. There was only one chance to get a soul crystal after 100 sacrifices. This thing seemed to be very rare. Han Fei couldn't help saying, Master Hexagon Starfish, did you hear that? If you want soul crystals, I will take you down later. You're going to sacrifice the things in your treasure vault. Hexagon Starfish. The Hexagon Starfish's tentacles were restless. Give me this one first. Han Fei threw the soul crystal into Forge the Universe. Don't worry. Keep this one first. When I have time, I will do a test to see how useful this soul crystal is. The Hexagon Starfish nodded. It can increase the strength of the soul a lot. Han Fei couldn't help asking, how good is it to increase the strength of the soul? The Hexagon Starfish nodded. It can enhance spiritual power. Han Fei asked, and then? The Hexagon Starfish nodded. There are a lot of benefits. You can perceive farther, set up arrays faster, and have a stronger sense of danger. Han Fei sneered. You want to say that it can help you escape faster, right? Don't think about it. This soul crystal is mine. After we go down, there will be plenty of soul crystals. If not, we can rob them. Chao Chiu took the 2 of them all the way. At first, Chao Chiu led the way, but then Xia Xiaochan led the way. Xia Xiaochan picked up something from time to time, sometimes a spiritual weapon, sometimes a crystal, and sometimes a combat skill. And Chao Chiu and Han Fei followed behind to pay. Mainly Chao Chiu paid, but Chao Chiu didn't seem to have any money with him. Someone always followed him and paid for him. Chao Chiu looked at Xia Xiaochan who was shopping. Do all women like to buy things? Han Fei smiled. Not bad. It must be. My sister also likes shopping. Every time she goes, she buys a bunch of random things. In the end, she threw everything to me and asked me to find something useful for her. But what do you think I can find from a pile of trash? Han Fei smiled and said nothing. In fact, he asked Xia Xiaochan to buy it on purpose. Anyway, the little fatty Chao Chiu was paying for it. He just didn't believe that a pie would fall from the sky. No matter how rich this little fatty from the Chao family was, he wouldn't squander it like this, right? giving him and Xia Shaochan 10 million mid-quality pearls so easily. How could there be such a good thing in the world? How many fish dragons would he need to buy? Chao Qiu didn't care what Xia Shaochan bought. He approached Han Fei and said, "Hey. I heard that in the sea grassland, Sun Mu, Yang Diyu, and Mo Fian all suffered losses in your hands." How should he put it? How big of a loss did they suffer? Did you hit them? Did you hit them? How hard did you hit them? You should have hit them harder. Unfortunately, you couldn't kill them, but it was fun to beat them to death. Han Fei said solemnly, "My name is Fan Datong, not Han Fei." The little fatty said indifferently, I know. So which of the three suffered the most? I heard that dozens of peak-level dangling fishers from the Sun Mu family died. Did you kill them all? It doesn't make sense. How could an intermediate dangling fisher kill so many people? Is it your secret method? Han Fei didn't answer. The little fatty continued, "Let me tell you, Sun Mu looks serious, but in fact he is full of evil tricks. Yang Diyu was a fool. He always thought that he was extremely smart, but he was also too crude. As for Mo Fian, that woman is terrible as my sister." Han Fei wondered, "Your sister?" The little fatty nodded matter-of-factly. "Yes, of course, she is my sister. My brother and my sister are both related by blood. However, my brother is a little bit more powerful, and my sister is very beautiful." Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, "What does it have to do with me whether your sister is beautiful or not?" The little fatty grinned and said, "I think my sister's character is also good. She is certainly scary to others, but to her own family, she is quite good. Why don't you think about it?" Puff. Fortunately, Xia Shaochan didn't hear these words. Otherwise, this little fatty would have been stabbed. Han Fei asked, "Seriously, you just said Sun Mu and the others, are they all down there?" Fatty Chow nodded angrily. "Yes, they are all down there. Damn it, they are all down there. They came a month ago, and now they have been down there for a month. Not only them, but also some other bastards. For example, Zhang Wen of the Zhang family, Li Hai and Li Baizhou of the Li family, Chen Aochen of the Chen family, Wang Zitian of the Wang family, Yi Baiyu of the Yi family. They are all down there. Yes, these damn bastards are all down there." Han Fei had always felt that there was something wrong with this little fatty's brain. At this moment, he felt that it was even more abnormal, so he asked, "Do you think it's better to kill all the children of the other families in the Thousand-Star City except for the Chow family?" "Ha! How do you know?" Han Fei wondered, why? There was a trace of determination in Chao Qiu's eyes, and Han Fei even saw a trace of sadness, but Chao Qiu quickly put away this emotion and said fiercely, "No matter what, they all deserve to die. They all deserve to die. Kill them all, kill them all." Han Fei was speechless. "You said that they all have amulets, immortal seals, dying strikes, life tablets. So many life-saving means. The black and white ghosts, can't kill them all." Chao Qiu clenched his fists. "Let's kill as many as we can." Han Fei smiled and said, "What if we can't even kill one?" Chao Qiu paused. Then we have to continue. This is a great goal, and I will fight for it for the rest of my life." Han Fei laughed. "Then who do you want to kill the most?" Chao Qiu's face suddenly changed, and after a long silence, he said, "Chao Tian." Han Fei was stunned. "Also surnamed Chao. You are from the Chao family?" "My brother." "Your biological brother?" "My biological brother." "Wow," Han Fei gasped. "Fuck, this little fatty's brain is definitely not normal. Just now, he said that if he wanted something, he would snatch it from his brother. However, in the end, the one he wanted to kill most turned out to be his brother, the holder of the highest record of the steps into the sea. Is this kid crazy?" Han Fei was speechless. "If your brother finds out, he will slap you to death, right? Chao Chiu said disdainfully, he already knows. Only I can't beat him now. If I could beat him, I would have killed him long ago. Han Fei thought to himself, what the hell is this family made of? The younger brother wants to kill the older brother, but the older brother knows. And he lets the younger brother snatch it. However, Han Fei thought that there must be some unknown story behind it. At this moment, it seemed that the so-called killing those children of the big families was actually an obsession of this little fatty. Although he didn't know how this obsession was formed, judging from the current situation, the little fatty obviously didn't have the ability to kill any of them. Therefore, the little fatty of the Chao family thought of cooperating with him and Xia Shaochan. Perhaps, in his eyes, anyone who could go against these children of the big families of the Thousand-Star City was worth cooperating with. However, when the Sun Mu trio was in the sea grassland, they had been killed by him. Therefore, this little fatty traveled hundreds of thousands of kilometers to find him and Xia Shaochan. Because he paid a lot of attention to him, this little fatty of the Chao family could tell at a glance that the black and white ghosts were Han Fei and Xia Shaochan. After all, he really cared about this matter. Thinking of this, Han Fei couldn't help but be horrified. Although this little fatty looked silly, his behavior didn't seem to be fake. If this was the case, this little fatty could even be said to be a man of great perseverance. This was a little shocking to Han Fei. Han Fei couldn't help saying, Xia Shaochan, don't buy any more. That's enough. Xia Shaochan responded, are you going down? Han Fei nodded. These deals are boring. Let's go down and have some fun. With that, Han Fei looked at Chao Chiu. Shall we go down? Chao Chiu chuckled. Wait a minute, we have to make an agreement. Once we enter the lower level, the situation will be complicated. We have to agree on a way to meet. Han Fei frowned. Not together. Chao Chiu nodded. Of course not. Many secret realms don't allow you to explore in groups. However, there is another strange thing about the steps into the sea. The further down we go, the higher the chances of us meeting each other. Xia Shaochan had already walked over. Why? Chao Chiu smiled and said, because. The further down we go, the smaller the steps are. Chapter 436. Having seen the bustling scene of the dragon boat and experienced the high-level transactions of the ghost ship, Han Fei was really not interested in the products of the stalls on the steps into the sea. Only Xia Shaochan hadn't boarded a dragon boat or been to the Spectre yet. Therefore, at this moment, she was very interested in the lively scene of the steps into the sea. The three of them agreed to meet on the 148th floor half a month later. Why the 148th floor? According to Chao Chiu, the 148th floor was relatively easy. From the 149th floor onwards, it was no longer easy. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan looked at each other. Not simple. It must be because this little fatty didn't have the confidence to fight his way through. Therefore, he asked Han Fei and Xia Shaochan to wait for him on the 148th floor. Even Chao Chiu himself would never admit that he had to ask for their help because he couldn't defeat them. At this moment, the three of them stood on a cliff. At the very center of the surface of the steps into the sea, there was a huge cliff that plunged straight into the bottom of the sea. This cliff was circular and had a radius of nearly 100 li. Here, the seawater flowed down with a loud splash. Water splashed everywhere, raising layers of white mist. On the surface, it was impossible to tell how deep it was. If this platform was just a bottomless pit in the sea, then so be it. Strangely, in the middle of the circular pit, there was a column of water rising straight up from the bottom. Han Fei saw that a group of people walked out of the water column in the middle and controlled the fishing boats to fly to the external platform. At the mouth of the cliff, there was actually someone jumping off the cliff in a fancy way. There were all kinds of postures. Some entered on their stomachs, some went in on their backs, some went in head first, and some dived in a fancy way. Xia Shaochan looked at these people in shock. How deep is this? Is it really okay to jump in like this? Chao Qiu smiled and said, it's okay. Jumping down was exhilarating and comfortable. In order to repeatedly enjoy the process, many people would come back up every time they went down to the first level. Then, jump down again, and repeat the process, never getting tired of it. As soon as Chao Qiu finished speaking, Xia Shaochan jumped. However, before he flew out, he was pulled back by Han Fei. Do you have money on you? Why did you jump? Xia Shaochan replied, I do. I bought a lot just now. Han Fei was lost for words. I knew those things weren't enough. You've probably spent most of your mid-quality pearls. As he spoke, he gave a bag of sea-swallowing seashells to Xia Shaochan and said, I don't have many. I'll give you 100. That should be enough. Pfft, Chao Qiu was speechless. So many sea-swallowing seashells. How many people did you rob? Han Fei said solemnly, am I that kind of person? I picked all of them up. Chao Qiu rolled his eyes. Tell me where you picked it up. I'm going to fucking pick them up. I even gave you 5 million mid-quality pearls. So you're two invisible tycoons. However, Xia Shaochan didn't take it. She also took out a bag of sea-swallowing seashells and compared them. Why do you have so many more than me? Huh? Where did you get so many? Xia Shaochan blinked her eyes. I stole it. Han Fei and Chao Qiu. Han Fei was speechless. This was the first time he had given something to a little girl in such a serious manner, but he had not given it to her. Damn it, it was too embarrassing. Han Fei put away the sea-swallowing seashells and snorted. Okay, let's go. See you in half a month. As soon as Han Fei said that, he saw Xia Shaochan fly into the air in a graceful posture. Seeing this, Han Fei glanced at Chao Qiu and said, see you then. Then with a swish, Han Fei also jumped into the deep pit with his back to it. For some reason, Han Fei felt that Chao Qiu was a trustworthy person. This was very strange. After all, what Chao Qiu said was not normal and didn't seem to be said by a reliable person. However, Chao Qiu's calmness and Yang Ruoyan's scheming were completely opposite extremes. Just like how he said that he wanted to kill his brother, this little fatty must have said it to many people. It felt like it was said by a child, without any consideration in his mind. In midair, Han Fei broke through the misty clouds. After about 100 meters, Han Fei felt that he had smashed through a layer of marshmallow-like water. After another 100 meters, another layer of marshmallow-like water was smashed by him. That feeling fluctuated up and down, soft and indeed comfortable. Gee, no wonder some people always like to jump down. The hexagon starfish opened its big eyes and was rolling at this moment. I feel that there seems to be treasures here, a lot of treasures. Han Fei was speechless. Master Hexagon, are you stupid? Aren't you just spouting nonsense? Everything outside was taken out from here. How can it not have treasures? Master Hexagon Starfish shouted, no. I have a strange feeling. Han Fei was suspicious. What feeling? You feel that there are precious treasures? Treasures like divine weapons? Master Hexagon was puzzled for a while. I can't feel it, but I feel that this place is not simple. Han Fei secretly remembered it in his heart. The hexagon starfish was really good at treasure hunting. Maybe it really had this kind of feeling. However, even if it did, Han Fei believed that it would be later. Han Fei passed through the layers of water mist and was enjoying the soft and comfortable feeling of smashing into the cotton. Suddenly, he felt a tingling on his wrist. Huh? Han Fei was shocked. Is the demon purification pot reacting? This kind of thing was rare. When the demon purification pot took the initiative to move, it usually represented an opportunity. And this time, it directly hurt him. The intensity was unprecedented, indicating that there was a big opportunity. At this moment, Han Fei completely believed what the hexagon starfish said. But because of this, Han Fei glanced at the hexagon starfish again and thought to himself, hexagon starfish is a treasure. Its perception of treasures is so keen. How can I fool it away a year later? Creeped out by Han Fei's little stare, the hexagon starfish immediately closed its eyes. From Han Fei's shoulder, it climbed to his leg. It was good to hang in a place where Han Fei couldn't see it. Bam, 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 Han Fei smashed through who knew how many layers of mist before he finally sunk into a large cotton. When he realized it, he was less than 100 meters in the air. Looking down, he found that below was a huge space wrapped in water mist. In his field of vision, there were nearly 100 people scattered everywhere. Among them, some people were fighting with some marine creatures, including white-bone fish, mystic moon fish, black moon sickle fish, red-haired big-mouthed crab, red-browed shrimp, and other creatures. Originally, Han Fei's appearance shouldn't have attracted everyone's attention. After all, there were too many people jumping down from the steps into the sea. Almost all the time, there were people jumping down. However, Han Fei's clothes were too conspicuous. He was like a dazzling star in this group of people who wore plain clothes and did not stand out from the crowd. He was wearing a black slim-fitting windbreaker and a tall hat on his head, on which the words, "Haunting Ghost," were written. Immediately, someone exclaimed, "Not good, it's Fan Datong, run." Some people didn't know the black and white ghosts and asked in confusion, "Who is Fan Datong? Why are you running?" The person who was running said in a panic, "He is the black ghost of the black and white ghosts. His strength is unparalleled. He killed a peak-level dangling fisher with 2 slashes. He likes to cook people and kills people without blinking. He is horrible, fuck." Someone was shocked when he heard that he killed a peak-level dangling fisher with 2 slashes. At that moment, he ran away madly, howling and wishing that he had 4 legs. As soon as Han Fei landed, he found that there was no one around. And those marine creatures, after having no enemies, all looked in the direction where Han Fei was. Also, these creatures changed their cleverness and all charged at Han Fei. Han Fei. Han Fei raised his hand and chopped an anti-heaven blade into 2 halves. However, this anti-heaven blade didn't bleed but turned into a cloud of water mist and disappeared. Then in the seawater, in a cloud of shimmering water mist, there was a piece of transparent gypsum. Huh? Han Fei was surprised. Is this a fake marine creature? No way. When he chopped that anti-heaven blade just now, he clearly felt that it was a living creature. Then Han Fei looked at a mess-swallowing worm, and data appeared in his eyes. Name: a mess-swallowing worm. Introduction: omnivorous giant worm. In the absence of food, it will even gnaw on its own kind and is often buried in the sand. The adult mess-swallowing worm is up to 30 meters long, with sharp barbs in its body, and each joint is a circular knife ring. There are swallowed pearls in its body, which can enhance its speed. Level 36 Quality Rare. It contains spiritual energy greater than 1,316 points. Defect: inedible, collectible and unabsorbable. Han Fei frowned. He remembered that the mess-swallowing worms could collect something called swallowed pearls, but now there were none. And the absorbable part had become unabsorbable. This meant that he couldn't get any spiritual energy from these marine creatures. Moreover, usually, marine creatures would either have some benefits when eaten, or they would be inedible. However, they were inedible here. The 2 words, unabsorbable and unabsorbable, seemed to be the same, but they had different meanings here. The blood-drinking knife slashed out, and more than a dozen marine creatures were blown up by Han Fei in the blink of an eye. And in the water, a dozen messy things emerged. There were ordinary mystic crystals, spiritual plants, spiritual wood, mystic iron, and crystal stones. There was even a treasure-hunting fish floating in a ball of water. Wow! Is this the second time? Second time. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 437. It turned out that when there was only one treasure-hunting fish, Han Fei was still very interested in it. However, this fish missed, and Han Fei was so angry that he chopped the fish in half. However, when this treasure-hunting fish was chopped in half by Han Fei, it didn't turn into mist but turned into pieces and fell on the invisible ground. So Han Fei watched this treasure-hunting fish disappear without a trace on the smooth mirror-like invisible ground under his feet. Huh? Han Fei immediately understood that this treasure-hunting fish should be the so-called reward for the sacrifice, so it was real. When he abandoned it, it would be swallowed by the steps into the sea. Han Fei grabbed the black iron, crystals, and other materials floating in the water. According to Cao Qiu, as long as he communicated with this world with his mind, he could sacrifice them. Han Fei immediately found that the piece of black iron and the perspective cream in his hand disappeared. Immediately, there was a turbulence in the water not far in front of him, and then an iron hook squid came out of nowhere. As soon as the iron hook squid showed its head, Han Fei smashed it with a brick. The huge force directly smashed the ink sac in its belly out. Fortunately, no one saw it. Otherwise, they would be very speechless. The squid had just come out and hadn't aimed at the target yet, but it was smashed to death by you with a brick. After smashing the iron hook squid to death, after waiting for 2 or 3 minutes, a shimmering water mass appeared. This time, the reward was a shrimp bone, less than half a meter long. Han Fei pinched it in his hand, shook it, and then used 50% of his strength to break it, but it didn't break. Thus, he used another 10% of his strength. Kacha, seeing that it was broken by his bare hands with 60% of his strength, Han Fei immediately threw it to the ground. After about 2 minutes, it was slowly swallowed by the ground. Humph! Rubbish! However, Han Fei didn't stop immediately, but gathered a mass of spiritual energy on his fingertips, about 500 points, and tried to sacrifice it with spiritual energy. However, after trying, Han Fei found that it didn't work at all. So Han Fei added another 500 points, but it was still not enough. Then, he added another 500 points, only to find that only 200 points were used, and there were still about 300 points left. So high. Han Fei frowned. This was only the first floor of the steps into the sea. Moreover, the rewards he had just received were not good at all. However, why was there as much as 1,200 points of spiritual energy? That was quite a number. Even the spiritual energy of a peak-level dangling fisher could only be consumed 4 times. This time, it was a black moon sickle fish. After it was hacked to death by Han Fei, only an ordinary piece of transparent plaster was left, which was worthless. After confirming that the first floor of the steps into the sea was just for fun, Han Fei meditated in his heart and communicated with this world, only to feel that the hard invisible barrier under his feet seemed to disappear. Shwa, Han Fei felt that he had passed through a cloud of water mist that was as soft as cotton and appeared about 100 meters above the second level. This is bad. The black and white vicious duo are here. Let's go. Some people didn't take it seriously and even glanced at Han Fei. In the end, he was immediately scolded by someone beside him. Look at you, son of a bitch. Stop looking. Fan Datong is here. Do you want to be eaten? Run. Run. In the blink of an eye, these people left more than a dozen creatures for Han Fei to sacrifice and summon. It was almost the same as the first floor, and even the creatures summoned were the same. With Han Fei's current physique, even if he stood still, these sea creatures couldn't possibly bite him to death, after a moment. When Han Fei looked at the various materials wrapped in a dozen water balls, he was quite speechless. Weren't the most worthless things in the ocean stones, shells, and various spiritual plants? Were they all for this kind of reward? Among these dozen water balls, only one water ball was wrapped in a flash stone. Han Fei didn't even want to pick up the other things. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, why are they exchanging for these garbage items at such a high price? In fact, these things weren't even qualified to be made into low-quality spiritual weapons. Han Fei thought, The lower the level, the higher the quality of the materials, but the higher the price everyone has to pay. Something's wrong. Han Fei sacrificed again with spiritual energy, but after spending nearly 1,300 points of spiritual energy, he only summoned an anti-heaven blade. Keep going down. Han Fei smashed the anti-heaven blade to death with a brick, collected these things, and then appeared above the third floor. According to Cao Qiu, only by defeating the creatures he summoned and getting the reward of the steps into the sea could he enter the next floor. So, Han Fei wondered, then, what kind of creatures will be summoned after the 200th floor? On the third floor, the situation was almost exactly the same as on the first and second floors. As soon as Han Fei appeared, someone screamed and then told his origin in horror. This time, Han Fei sacrificed nearly 1,400 points of spiritual energy. Wow, Han Fei couldn't help but click his tongue. It seems to have a pattern. Every time he went down a floor, he needed to consume nearly 100 more points of spiritual energy. In order to verify his idea, Han Fei went all the way down. The time he stayed on each floor was no more than 5 minutes. Not only did he not spend any money, but he also made a small profit. After all, so many people ran away and left him a lot of sacrificial items. A large number of people who knew the black and white ghosts immediately ran away as soon as they saw Han Fei, without the slightest hesitation. The remaining creatures naturally belonged to Han Fei. This situation didn't end until he reached the 31st floor. After entering the 31st floor, Han Fei saw more than a dozen people, far less than the 100 people at the beginning. And the creatures here naturally rose to a higher level. From the most common mystic moon fish, anti-heaven blade, and so on, to most creatures such as black moon sickle fish, mess-swallowing worms, and crayfish. Besides, in terms of level, they were 1 to 2 levels higher on average than the first 10 floors. On the 31st floor, none of the more than a dozen people knew Han Fei, so no one ran away. However, the weird decorations on Han Fei's body still forced them to stay away from him. Han Fei didn't intend to rob these people. In his opinion, even after reaching the 30th floor, the creatures here were still too weak. Unlike the previous floors, there were fewer fish such as mystic moon fish and anti-heaven blade. And there were more relatively advanced fish such as black moon sickle fish. That was all. Han Fei tried to sacrifice and then curled his lips. 3,300 points. At this moment, Han Fei's estimation was not so accurate, but the error was no more than 200 points of spiritual energy. When he saw a red-browed lobster being summoned, he was a little disappointed. Han Fei smashed it with a brick and this red-browed lobster was smashed into pieces. Hiss! At the moment when Han Fei smashed this red-browed lobster to death, the surrounding people all ran away with horror in their eyes. Sure enough, none of the strangely dressed guys were simple. The 51st floor. This was another watershed. After Han Fei smashed a sapphire lobster to death on the 50th floor, he got a palm-sized jade slip in return, which turned out to be a spirit-level high-quality combat skill. Based on the rewards of this floor alone, he definitely made a profit. But when Han Fei thought of the garbage given on the first 49 floors, he found that he only made a profit. He spent a lot of spiritual energy to exchange for a pile of garbage, but there would always be good things. This was the reason why so many people continued to come in even though they knew it was a trap. Without thinking much, Han Fei entered the 51st floor directly. This time, he actually encountered as many as 30 people fighting here. These people were all fighting on their own, and there was no situation where they were fighting as a group. After Han Fei landed, he casually threw out 20 pieces of garbage. He pondered. According to his previous experience, these 20 materials should be enough for the sacrifice this time. However, someone laughed and said, "Brother, it's not enough. This is the 51st floor." Seeing that those things failed to be sacrificed, Han Fei looked at the man who was fighting a red-haired big-mouthed crab not far away. So he threw out another 20 pieces of garbage. Swish! 34 items disappeared. Huh? Han Fei's eyes suddenly lit up. Is the level of sacrifice on the 51st floor higher than on the 50th floor? When a purple soldier crab appeared, Han Fei confirmed that the level of sacrifice here was indeed higher. Han Fei smiled and then shook his head slightly. But, it's still not enough. With a brick, the purple soldier crab died. Many people were stunned. Some people couldn't help but change their expressions and then slowly moved away from Han Fei. But these people didn't escape. They seemed to have something to rely on. After collecting a flash stone, Han Fei sacrificed again with spiritual energy. As a result, 10,000 points of spiritual energy disappeared in an instant. Fuck. So high. Third update. Asking for votes. The author said, "Finally, I can use the names that many readers have suggested for me. I've used more than half of them in one go. Tonight is double 11. I know you're all busy chopping your hands off. I can only wish you all a happy chopping your hands off." End of this chapter. Chapter 438. As he continued down, Han Fei stayed longer and longer. According to his experiment, the 50th floor of the steps into the sea was a watershed. Starting from the 51st floor, if the amount of spiritual energy sacrificed was calculated in terms of spiritual energy, it would be at least 10,000 points. Every time he went down a floor, the consumption of spiritual energy would increase by about 1,000 points. Many people couldn't accept this amount of spiritual energy at all. Although it was reasonable to say that the spiritual energy contained in a spiritual fruit was enough for anyone to go down 7 or 8 floors. However, correspondingly, the creatures summoned on each floor were also getting stronger and stronger. Besides, if you took a spiritual fruit, unless you could quickly break through the next few floors in a few hours, the spiritual energy contained in the spiritual fruit itself would dissipate, and you would also need spiritual energy to fight with the summoned creatures. Therefore, in theory, if a person had 100,000 points of spiritual energy, excluding the battle, consumption, and sacrifice, he could probably only break through 5 floors. Han Fei calculated that the price of buying an ordinary spiritual fruit on the dragon boat was about 800 to 1,000 mid-quality pearls, which was enough for ordinary people to break through about 5 floors after the 50th floor. Of course, as the difficulty increased, the number of floors a person could break through naturally decreased. At this moment, when he came to the 100th floor, Han Fei sacrificed about 65,000 points of spiritual energy, which was equivalent to 6 low-quality spiritual stones and 1 ordinary spiritual fruit. He took out the embroidery needle, and his opponent was a red flame python. At this moment, the red flame python's head had been smashed by Han Fei's rod. To Han Fei's delight, it turned out to be a soul crystal. Although this was only a level 1 soul crystal, it was enough for Han Fei to earn back all his previous investments. He could reluctantly say that he didn't suffer a loss this time. "Give me this one. You already have 2. Han Fei didn't rush to enter the 101st floor but asked, "Master Hexagon, how do I use this thing? Should I eat it directly?" "Yes, you can eat it directly, but it's not delicious. Give it to me." Han Fei smiled without saying anything and threw the soul crystal directly into his mouth. As a result, with a crack, his teeth were almost chewed to pieces. "Damn, it's so hard. Are you sure this thing can be eaten directly?" Han Fei spat out the soul crystal and found that the little crystal didn't change at all. "You don't have to bite it. You can swallow it directly into your stomach." Han Fei asked suspiciously, "Have you eaten it before?" The hexagon starfish rolled its eyes. "I haven't eaten it before, but I think I can swallow it directly." "Shut up." Han Fei's face darkened. You feel all the time. I'm not a starfish. If you can swallow, I can swallow." Han Fei didn't feel reassured and decided to ask someone. He only had 2 soul crystals, and he was reluctant to give one to the hexagon starfish. With this in mind, Han Fei stopped on the steps into the sea for the first time. Previously, he would stop for a few dozen breaths to test the amount of spirit energy needed to be sacrificed for each step. Therefore, he had never visited every floor of the steps into the sea. At this moment, Han Fei guessed that the 101st floor would be another watershed. Sacrificing on the 101st floor would probably require a large amount of spiritual energy. The trash items that he had accumulated would probably not last past the second level before they were all sacrificed. With one's own spiritual energy, Han Fei didn't think it was necessary. He only needed to test the standard of spiritual energy consumed for the first 2 floors after each watershed. If he kept using his spiritual energy, he would be an idiot. Would he exhaust himself to death? The hexagon starfish couldn't get any spiritual energy, so it could only hang on Han Fei's calf, constantly clawing at his tentacles. The hexagon starfish secretly cursed in its heart. We agreed to hunt for treasures together, but now what good things have I got? Each floor of the steps into the sea was like a square chessboard. No matter from which angle you looked at it, it looked like you were in a normal ocean. However, the feeling of your feet on the ground told you that you were standing on a flat surface. Han Fei jumped out, and after running for about 5 kilometers, he saw an advanced dangling fisher armorist fighting a machete crab. That machete crab was also a mutant species and could be regarded as an exotic species. Seeing Han Fei swimming over with a silver-white glow in his hand, the man couldn't help frowning. Han Fei swam over happily, took out the soul crystal, and said to him via voice transmission, "Hey, brother, do you know how to use the soul crystal?" The advanced dangling fisher looked at Han Fei as if looking at a fool and said in surprise, It's this thing. This thing is called a soul crystal." Han Fei was speechless and suddenly remembered that Chao Qiu said that most people didn't know this thing. It seemed to be true. The man suddenly took out a long knife from the armor box, and in the blink of an eye, a knife light of tens of meters burst out and the machete crab in front of him was hacked to death. Then, without blinking, the man directly grabbed a small sword in the water ball and stuffed it into his sea-swallowing seashell. Although the man's speed was very fast, Han Fei found that what he got was just a high-quality magic weapon, which was not a very good return. However, on the dragon boat, the price of a high-quality magic weapon was not cheap. It could be said that this man should have made a profit. The man quickly swallowed a pill, and the spiritual energy in his body surged. Then he put the armor box in front of him. "Give me that stone." Han Fei wondered, "Why should I give it to you?" The man smiled coldly. "Because you are only an intermediate dangling fisher." Of course, this man saw the strange clothes on Han Fei and the words, "Haunting Ghost," written on Han Fei's hat. However, an intermediate dangling fisher was just an intermediate dangling fisher. In this world, there were not so many people who could challenge higher levels. He was very confident that he could defeat this weird boy in front of him. Han Fei was speechless. "So, you want to rob me?" The armorist sneered. "You can say that." Han Fei immediately sneered. "Is my clothes not enough to shock you, or has your head been split by the machete crab?" "Huh. I almost forgot about the robbery. You, hand over your sea-swallowing seashell." "Okay." Han Fei knew that if he wanted to return to the steps into the sea, he also needed to communicate with the steps into the sea. This was the same as entering the next step, which was not completed in an instant but had to wait for a few seconds. When the armorist saw Han Fei's bright smile, his heart skipped a beat and he subconsciously took out a flash stone. However, he was shocked by what happened next. The seawater beside him suddenly began to go out of control. Before he could crush the flash stone, he suddenly found that he could no longer feel his hand. In a hurry, this person summoned 3 turtle shell shields. However, when a knife light flashed, the shield was broken and a circle of invisible blades was cutting his body crazily. "No! Spare me!" Han Fei slowly hung the blood-drinking knife on his waist. As his fingers slid gently in the water, the seawater turned into many looming sharp blades, cutting the armorist crazily. Han Fei grinned. The infinity water was so useful, even better than the blood-drinking knife. It could kill people without leaving a trace. Han Fei said lightly, "Thank you for reminding me. Otherwise, I would have almost forgotten." From the 100th floor, it seems that it's time to start robbing. Before the armorist finished begging for mercy, his body had been pierced through by the weird water-shaped blade. At the last moment, he seemed to understand the truth. If there was an afterlife, no matter what, he couldn't think that others were stupider than him. Han Fei grabbed this person's sea-swallowing seashell, glanced at it, and shook his head helplessly. The things in this person's sea-swallowing seashell were much less than he thought. There were only less than 30 kinds of materials that could be used to refine spiritual weapons, among which a piece of fish bone was of the best quality. Judging from its quality, it was probably a material for making high-quality spiritual weapons. Unfortunately, it was too little. If he wanted to build a complete high-quality spiritual weapon, Han Fei had to find at least 10 fish bones of the same size. In addition to these materials, there were 5 spiritual fruits, less than 30 caddies of spiritual spring, and 5 or 6 bottles of pills in this person's sea-swallowing seashell. Han Fei didn't mind. In this place, anything could be sacrificed. Although the things in this person's sea-swallowing seashell were few, if they were used as sacrifices, they would probably be enough for him to continue to the next 10 floors. Putting away the sea-swallowing seashell, Han Fei didn't feel any pity. After all, anyone who came to the level 3 fishery had to be prepared to die. Pity was something that was hard to develop after you were used to seeing life and death. Just like just now, this person also wanted to kill him. Was there any need to show any sympathy for him? Of course, this didn't mean that Han Fei was bloodthirsty. In Han Fei's cognition, friendly or hostile completely depended on the other party. Han Fei continued to swim in the water, without direction or goal, as long as he could meet someone. After swimming for 7 or 8 kilometers, Han Fei still didn't find a single person. However, Han Fei didn't give up. He noticed that there were ripples shaking underwater. If he guessed right, Han Fei was sure that there were definitely people fighting within a radius of 30 kilometers. Chapter 439. The steps into the sea was a very strange place. The resources it had seemed to be endless. In the level 3 fishery, divine weapons were very rare, but almost everyone had spiritual weapons. One of the most important sources was this steps into the sea. At this moment, more than 20 people were fighting each other. There was no summoned creature here, indicating that no one had made a sacrifice just now. It was conceivable that these people who were fighting were probably trying to grab other people's sea-swallowing seashells. At this moment, Han Fei was negotiating with the hexagon starfish. Master Hexagon Starfish, tie them up with the 6-gate formation. At that time, all the shiny things in their sea-swallowing seashells will belong to you, and the rest will belong to me. The Hexagon Starfish didn't quite believe him. What about the soul crystal? That thing is precious. The first one belongs to me, and the second one belongs to you. The Hexagon Starfish's big eyes rolled. You already have 2. Han Fei said earnestly, I just don't want you to use it blindly. Look, we have all come to the 100th floor. These people don't even know soul crystals. What does this mean? The Hexagon Starfish wondered, what does it mean? Han Fei said leisurely, since they can come here, it means that these people are no longer ordinary people. However, even so, soul crystals are things that they can't touch. This shows that the significance of soul crystals is more important than what we see. We can't eat them randomly. The 6 eyes of the Hexagon Starfish tilted at the same time. You just don't want to give them to me, Han Fei stomped his feet. Bullshit. Am I that kind of stingy person? Then give me an ultra-quality spiritual stone. Han Fei, don't talk. If you don't listen to me, I will squeeze your essence blood. The Hexagon Starfish had learned to roll his eyes now. You have so many spiritual stones. So what if you give me one? Humans are all big octopuses, very hypocritical. Lu Qing, put down the dragon pattern stone, or you won't be able to get out of this steps into the sea. The person who was called Lu Qing was not a man, but a graceful woman. In her hands, 2 nooses were wandering around her body like spiritual snakes. Under her feet were large tracts of red vines. To Han Fei's surprise, more than 20 people were besieging this woman. More importantly, they still haven't managed to kill it. However, when Han Fei saw the noose in Lu Qing's hand, he noticed that it was emitting pale red venom. Then Han Fei figured it out. A manipulator at the level of a peak-level dangling fisher who could use poison, similar to Yang Huan, was not someone that ordinary people could deal with. Besides, those who besieged her were all advanced dangling fishers. None of them were peak-level dangling fishers. Lu Qing was surrounded by this group of people. He stood in the middle of the red vines that were blooming like flowers. He looked around at them. If you have the ability, then come. I want to see how many of you can survive. Kill her. If we sell the dragon pattern stone, each of us will get at least 100,000 mid-quality pearls. Han Fei's lips twitched. For an advanced dangling fisher, 100,000 mid-quality pearls was already a fortune. Unfortunately, in his opinion, they were just a bunch of inexperienced people. Just as everyone was attacking, 6 beams of purple light suddenly appeared out of thin air. Someone's expression changed. Not good, retreat. Someone crushed a flash stone, and then with a bang, it hit the 6 gates formation. Han Fei strolled over and looked at these people coldly. Ghosts take their souls, and impermanence takes their lives. Passers-by wanted money, not life. Leave your sea-swallowing seashells and leave. Han Fei's sudden appearance stunned these people. Lu Qing was also dumbfounded. An intermediate dangling fisher. Someone's face changed slightly. Brothers, break this formation. The opponent is just an intermediate dangling fisher. Kill her. However, as soon as the man shouted this, Han Fei jumped over, and the blood-drinking knife shone brightly and slashed straight at the man. Not good, help me, everyone. An armorist took out a turtle shell shield, and a manipulator entangled with spiritual herbs. However, these obstacles were all shattered by Han Fei's knife light. At this time, a fish hook instantly broke through the air, fell in front of the clamoring soul warrior, and hooked his feet. Hula. This person was pulled out of the 6-gate formation by Han Fei. Before he could cut the fishing line, a brick had already hit his body. Puff, the man vomited blood and was sent flying, and his 2 arms drooped softly. Han Fei threatened again, it's only right to buy your life with money. Otherwise, I'll break your limbs, dig out your eyes, and cut off your tongue. Wow, so cruel. The soul warrior who fell to the ground was horrified and secretly pinched a flash stone. However, in the next second, he saw the whetstone slap down like a big seal, directly damaging his internal organs and making him bleed from his 7 orifices. The man was horrified. You are not an intermediate dangling fisher, Han Fei put away the knife and slashed it down. If you try to escape, I'll cut off your limbs. Fortunately, you've already awakened. You can keep your eyes, ears, nose, and tongue. After Han Fei took the sea-swallowing seashells dropped by the soul warrior, he ignored him. The battle's soul master dragged his crippled body and fled like a madman. The 6-gate formation let him go, and the man disappeared from sight in the blink of an eye. Han Fei straightened his hat with both hands and continued coldly, I want your money, not your life. You have 10 minutes to think about it. With that said, Han Fei counted, 10983, with his hands hanging down, his eyes dull. We'll give it to you. Han Fei's means were too tough. This purple light array made their scalps go numb. Even flash stones couldn't get out of this array formation, so it wasn't something they could break in 1 or 2 attacks. When someone threw out their sea-swallowing seashells, a gap would open in front of them. And the person who handed over his sea-swallowing seashells fled in panic for fear that Han Fei would attack him. Seeing someone leave, a second and a third immediately followed. After a while, only the manipulator named Lu Qing was left in the six-gate formation. Han Fei tilted his head. I want your money, not your life. Will you give it to me or not? Lu Qing's eyes turned cold. Don't play tricks on me. Come and kill me. Han Fei stepped into the six-gate formation and then stepped in front of Lu Qing. In an instant, the red vines raged and the ropes were like snakes, directly covering Han Fei. Lu Qing snorted. You are very arrogant. Unfortunately, only peak-level dangling fishers can resist my red moon poisonous toad. Bam! 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 As soon as Lu Qing finished speaking, all the red vines collapsed. And Han Fei held two ropes in his hands, letting the red poison spread in his palms. Seeing this scene, Lu Qing was shocked and a red toad appeared behind her, with dark red poison bursting on its body. Immediately afterward, dozens of dark red venoms wrapped at Han Fei. The corners of Han Fei's mouth slightly curled up. He suddenly pulled the noose, and under the pull of his huge force, Lu Qing's body rushed forward. What greeted her was a rectangular brick, whetstone. Bam! Lu Qing was slapped to the ground by Han Fei like a cannonball. As for her red venom, it was pulled by circles of water and none of it could approach Han Fei. Han Fei's voice was calm and his eyes were calm. It's only right to buy your life with money. Put down your sea-swallowing seashells and I'll spare your life. Lu Qing struggled to sit up, frowned, and looked at Han Fei. Who the hell are you? Han Fei didn't bother to talk nonsense. He slashed out, smashed the red vines, and finally fell on Lu Qing's body. Puff, ha! In Han Fei's surprised gaze, Lu Qing appeared in another place. What he had just chopped down was actually a round red vine. Lu Qing immediately took out her sea-swallowing seashell. I'll give it to you. Han Fei grabbed the sea-swallowing seashell, swept it inside, and then a black stone was pulled out by him. Han Fei looked at it carefully, but the demon purification pot didn't show anything. However, he squeezed it hard and then cut it with the snow-drinking knife, only to find that there was only a shallow white mark. Not bad. Han Fei raised his head and glanced at Lu Qing. I'll give you time to call for help. Go. Since Lu Qing was surrounded, she had already planned to blow herself up. Later, Han Fei appeared halfway and seemed to be even more arrogant. As far as she knew, there were few people like Han Fei in the level 3 fishery. He could have killed her, but he didn't. Everyone knew that kindness to the enemy was cruelty to oneself. However, Han Fei didn't do it and asked her to call for help. What did he mean by this? Lu Qing took a deep look at Han Fei and left quickly without saying a word. A soul crystal and a dragon pattern stone, these were the two best items Han Fei had obtained so far. He immediately checked other people's sea-swallowing seashells, which were generally similar to the armorist he had killed before. There were very few things in the sea-swallowing seashells, and the quality was only slightly higher. In short, these people didn't have any real good things. This inevitably disappointed Han Fei. Was the 100th floor not enough? Were all the good things still below? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.